My mother 52F cheated and left me 27 netter and our family to work in the adult industry, and now wants to come back and be my mom again. My dad 67 men used to travel a lot to work and stay weeks away. So he and my mother had an agreement where they had an open marriage, don't know the details, but she was the only one that slept with other people. This happened to most of my childhood, as I can remember her leaving at night to go to clubs and parties, sometimes taking days to come back and neglecting me and my brother. I learned how to get groceries and cook when I was 8, so me and my brother would not starve. When I was around 13, my parents started fighting since apparently she had broken the deal in some way. My dad found out about the neglect, and she started going into the adult industry. They separated, and for years I had no contact with my mother. I sent her texts and emails, some that even popped up as she had seen it. But she never replied, so one day I just gave up trying to contact her. I managed to stay in contact with some people from her side of the family, but a lot of them began hating on us, saying that we were too harsh on her, that we never supported her, that she did well leaving us, and gradually I also cut contact with them as well. She started working in the adult industry and got pretty famous in my country, got a lot of money, and I stopped using any NSFW websites as she was on the top pages of all of them. I gladly suffered zero to no bullying in high school because of it, as there were no ways of connecting her to me, and most of my friends that knew my mother didn't know it was her. She had dyed her hair, done a few surgeries and stuff. Well, I moved on with my life, joined the army, and I'm pretty well now. However, a year ago, out of nowhere, she found me on social media and began to message me, asking how I was, commenting on how much I had grown up, and trying to do some small talk. I just replied with one words, and even stopped replying once my nerve got the best of me. Apparently, she has retired, and after feeling an overwhelming remorse throughout her entire life, decided to contact us again. My brother was also careful, but essentially accepted her back. He was always close to her. My father is cordial with her, but only that she has also asked her entire part of the family for help, as I began being bombarded with messages and calls from both those that criticized and supported me and my dad. I made it clear that I do not want anything with her, but they just keep on it, saying that she is remorseful, that she did a mistake but wants to make it right, that she has come back for us, etc. More recently, she somehow found out where I live, and I've been receiving random gifts at my doorstep with messages that were clearly hers. Things like a basket of chocolate that I liked when I was little, expensive clothes, she got my size wrong on all of them, lol, flowers when my cat passed away, and even a very expensive hiking kit. I messaged her a few times to say that I don't want any of that, but she just pretends she doesn't know what I'm talking about, or just says she thought of me at that moment. I made it clear, time and time again, that I don't want anything to do with her, but she still persists, saying that she can be my mom again now and stuff like that. I don't know what else to say. So advices are more than welcome. TLDR. Mother cheated and decided to abandon the family to work in the adult industry. Now she is trying to approach me again with gifts and messages, but I don't want any relationship with her. Relevant comments. Commenter. You are under no obligation to allow her back into your life. Block her again, and her family, and dump all of the gifts she gives you. Stop entertaining her attention. If she still will not stop, I'd honestly recommend going the legal route. Get a cease and desist letter sent out to her and her family. And if that doesn't, stop it. Go to the police to get her harassment on file, so it'll be easier to file a police report restraining order in the future. Reply, I have donated or sent back all of the gifts already. Unfortunately, cease and desist letters are not a thing in my country, but I'm really thinking about filing a police report for harassment. Just don't know if they will accept since she never did it personally. Commenter 2. It sounds like she's regretting what she's done and wants it back the way it was. But you shouldn't let this happen. Will just happen over and over again. Reply. She has indeed voiced that she regrets what she has done, and I don't think it would happen again. But she should know things would not get back the way it was. And honestly, if she thought it would, she is even crazier because things were really bad before update. First, I would like to thank everyone that commented, giving me some comfort, advice, or letting me unwind on their DMs. You all helped me a lot. I'm still trying to answer all of the comments and messages, but with work and family craziness, reaching new heights that might take some time. But know that your words are very appreciated, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Well, to start the update, I decided to have the moral high ground and take a more polite approach. I know many of you wanted me to just send her to hell on a message or letter, but I thought this way would disarm much of her comebacks and maybe even make some of her family members shut up. I called her and asked her to meet me in a small cafe. No way I was meeting her in private. She got there and it looked like she had won the lottery. She had a smile from ear to ear and was almost jumping up and down. But her smile did fade when she saw my face. She sat down and tried to do some small talk, but I cut her off and began to rain on her parade. With all of the calm and patience I could gather, I told her that no matter what she does or says, there would be no way for her to be my mom again. I started to explain that she was a complete stranger to me now, that I still had resentments, reminded her that I tried many times to stay in contact with her, but she refused, and even stated that I'm no longer a child. I'm almost 30, so I kind of don't need a mom anymore. Had to hold myself not to say something like, "A few years too late, huh?" I didn't even finish speaking when she burst into tears and began rambling about how sorry she was, that she was sorry for not seeing me grow up, sorry for ignoring me, that she would do anything for a second chance. She even told me that if her old work bothers me, she could have it all taken down and pay for therapy if I wanted. Apparently she didn't know I'm in therapy. Ever since I was a teenager, I politely refused, and since the conversation wasn't likely to progress, I just left after asking her once more to not contact me again. A couple of hours later, I was in the shower when my phone began exploding with calls and messages. She apparently once again told her family, and once again they were cursing or trying to convince me. That showed me that some of the more radical comments on my last post were somewhat right, and I decided to follow some of their advice. I swapped my phone number, also got a much better phone plan, cleaned my social media of any family members from her side, and told my lawyer to go forward with the restraining order. Thanks to the last post, I had it ready to go. Thanks again, everyone. She received the order a couple of days ago and immediately broke it by driving straight to my house to scream why I was doing that. I didn't come out and called the cops. Thankfully, they saw the restraining order and took her to the station for questioning. I was afraid they would ignore it or something, but I'm glad I was wrong. I'm now stuck here. Not sure with what I did was 100% right, but at least I'm having some semblance of peace this last few days. She's still trying to send gifts, but I'm going legal on that too. I'm honestly not sure if there will be any more updates after this, but if it happens, I too post on my profile due to this subreddit rules. But once again, thanks everyone, TLDR. I decided to be polite and meet my mother face to face and tell her that was no way for her to be my mother again. She said she understood but continued pushing. So I went the legal route and served her a restraining order update too. So I wasn't planning on posting any more updates, but a lot of people have been messaging me, and apparently my mother is now legally fighting me on the restraining order. I didn't even know that was a thing, and I'm trying to get more restraining orders for the more crazy members of her family. My lawyer told me to be cautious because if I request 20+ orders for all of her family, I too look like a madman, and it will all be denied. She hasn't broken the restraining order again after the last time, but the gifts continue to come and even intensified. So I'm just donating all of them. Although my childhood was pretty bad, I can say that the amount of chocolate she sent me is making a lot of kids really happy now, LOLA. And I'd say it again, I'm not revealing her name. Go find porn elsewhere and stop messaging me. It's not even for her sake, but because I don't want to get doxxed. Anyone that sends any message like that will be blocked to end this. I don't know if I too post any more updates or how long they will be, but if something happens, I definitely tell you guys. Once again, thanks to everyone that helped me update. 3. Hey there folks, yeah, it has been a few years. Life has been a complete roller coaster, but with some people still sending DMs. I figure I should at least try to make some updates. Now bear in mind it has been years, so my memory might be spotty and all over the place. Will try my best to make it chronological, but it might turn into a mess, right? Where I left off, well, my mom had been pushy to the limit, but at least with the restraining order she was keeping away, there were some incidents like when she showed up at my dad's house during a family dinner, only for my dad's new girlfriend at the time, now wife, to open the door. She also showed up at my job asking for me army, and one of my friends who was on guard duty scared her off with a shotgun. Love those guys, and they are pretty much the only thing I miss about the army. Well, life was not going that well, kept being passed for promotions. My requests for officer, school were always denied, and to top it all off, my girlfriend at the time cheated and dumped me, so yeah. Not nice. Years went by, and when I finally thought I would get an upstart in my promotion, I got dismissed by the army along with a lot of other folks. Suddenly, with no job, I had to go back to living with my dad for some time while I tried to figure out what to do with my life. The restraining order against my mom also expired, so she came back with renewed vigor, which did not help the situation at all. There's a lot more, so I should tackle it some other time. For now, have a nice weekend, folks. Update 4. So for starters, my situation is a little bit better than a few moments ago. Will likely finish college next year. Being in the army has royally fucked up getting some classes time-wise, but let's see how it goes. Still got a metric fucking of problems to solve, including trying to get money to end some debts, so normal day-to-day stuff at least. And also no time for dating. So my romantic life is dead and buried for the time being. On a more positive note, I had to change therapists, but the new one is a specialist in treating families of famous people. I've been liking it a lot, and they are very discreet, expensive, but my old army buddy works there and got me in. Thanks again, dude. Now, for the elephant in the room, the situation with my mom is a roller coaster, but at least it's not crashing and burning. Most of the time she stays away and only sends texts and the occasional letter on special dates, Xmas, birthdays, etc. Sometimes she has pulled some crazy moves, mostly trying to sneak into family events I'm in. Twice made a scene in front of my dad's house when she was drunk. Couldn't get the restraining order renewed since she toned down on the crazy contact attempts for the moment, but who knows? Hard to know when it's her. For now, that's it. And for the retard still DMing me for her name, fuck off. Or better, Aita reveal for $2,000. Ha! Now fuck off for the others that have sent me support and motivational messages. I'd always be grateful, even if I don't reply. No, I say thank you. As for now, I think that's it. Good year to everybody. Stories number 2. I think my girlfriend has been trying to get me fired from all my jobs. I'm shaken. I'm M24, and I've been with F29, let's call her Janice, for 2.5 years. I just finished my education when we started dating, and I have been doing all sorts of jobs since. Sometimes 2 at a time. I did this to expand my resume and gather job experience. I worked in cafes, bookstores, a library, a grocery store, and as an English tutor. Most of those jobs lasted about 3 to 5 months. My shortest stay was 2.5 weeks, my longest 8 months, but since I didn't have a hard time applying for new positions, I tried to block it out, though it was kind of eating me up internally. People called to complain about me. People left bad reviews about me. People used my employee Wi-Fi access to look up sketchy things on the internet under my name. Former employees called to inform them about me, right name and all. And much, much more subtle stuff that I couldn't disprove. But I was too anxious to do anything about it. I just told my girlfriend. She comforted me. She supported me every time I got my life ruined by these people. But I kept going. Though they kept finding me. Fast forward to this week. I currently hold a part-time position at a bakery. I've been working there for 2.5 months. It's going okay, but my manager approached me about something regarding our Google reviews. Someone was complaining about an employee, and their description of them could only really fit me. It was on a day where we're pretty short of staff, so I could have been the only person in the store on that day, for all I know. Anyway, their review contained some pretty elaborate and nasty comments about me. This has happened on 1 or 2 of my jobs already. I told my manager that it was all pretty bogus, and that someone had a vendetta against me. As it has happened before, she believed me, and told me that she'll dismiss the comment on my break. I checked out the review myself. Their username was kinda stupid. I'm not gonna type it out here since I still work there, but I'll just call them Mick Myrtle. As it was in the same range of sounds. Kinda fake, but not really. Anyway, I come home but don't tell Janice about it. She has heard it all before, so I didn't see the point in complaining about another time I almost lost my position. Chat, all is well, and she leaves the room. Her phone is on the table and suddenly, she gets a notification or an email of some sort from Google. I don't remember what it said exactly, but the pop-up read something along the lines of, Mick Myrtle, manager has responded to your review. My heart dropped. I've been trying to ignore it since this was 2 days ago. It just fit in the picture of bad reviews. It fit in the picture of the phoned complaints my workplaces have received about me in the past. It fits in the picture of all the sketchy things I've been fired for. Why would she do that, though? I'm looking for an explanation. This literally can't be. She's the only thing keeping me sane. I don't know what to do. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Please, for the love of God, do not stay with that woman. She is sick. Who the hell does that to someone they love? Commenter 2. Someone insecure and twisted enough to try to destroy their partner's self-esteem, to make the partner dependent on them. Commenter 3. This is extreme manipulation and abuse. I feel sick to my stomach thinking about you having gone through this for years, losing job after job and being devastated and confused. The worst is you confiding in her and her knowing exactly what she did to you. I really don't understand how anyone can do this to someone they love. Please, OP, for your sake, you need to leave this relationship. Commenter 4. Sounds kind of like she's trying force things toward him needing her. Possibly even being dependent. Commenter 5. Does your GF earn more money than you? This is intense, and you need to get out. This is abuse, and you'll never get anywhere with her doing this. But I do suggest you talk to her. Ask her straight out, but be prepared for the worse. Reply. She has a very stable position and a pretty good job. So yes, she does earn more money than me. Commenter 6. I'm so glad your manager believes you. Hopefully this is a time where you can find some stability and start over. I'm so sorry your partner has been sabotaging your employment in this way. Maybe it's to keep you reliant on her, or so she can always play the role of the reliable and comforting savior partner. Maybe she gets off on the control. Does she hurt you in other ways? Are there any other areas of your life she is interfering with? Are your bank accounts safe and secure? Please look up resources for leaving an abusive partner safely. This is an absolutely awful thing to happen. I'm so sorry. This is not love. You didn't deserve to be treated this way. Wishing you all the best for the future. Reply. If she's really the one messing with me, she must have my login details to my email, since she would have gotten the employee Wi-Fi access that way. So I'm certain she has access to a lot more than I might be thinking of in the moment. Probably all my social media, IDK if she can read my messages there or not. This Reddit account is luckily not connected to any email, so I hope she won't find this. I don't know how much she knows and doesn't know about my life. I'm scared and I feel disgusted. Update. 1. Hello people who are still invested. I'm sorry for not updating you guys earlier. A lot has been going on. First of all, yes, we broke up. That's why I'll be referring to her as my ex from now on. Anyway, let's start from the beginning. On the Monday of the following week, I couldn't take the uncertainty anymore. I told my ex I needed her booking account to book a train ticket to visit my dad for a few days. She complied, and when she was in the shower getting ready for work, I booked my ticket and started looking through her emails. After some digging, I found an email to herself which contained a spreadsheet file. I sent the file to myself, printed it out, and took a screenshot. Why? The spreadsheet contained about every single information about me that there was: numbers, emails, passwords, work times, colleagues, their numbers and social medias, as well as some emails and passwords that she used for accounts to ruin my life. With everything was on there, conveniently sorted for her to ruin my life as efficiently as possible when she left for work. I decided it would be best to immediately pack my stuff. Nothing that mattered would be left behind. I felt like a wanted man, like I was being hunted despite nothing being seemingly out of place. I called my boss, told her I would be taking some time off from work, and headed out to see my dad. Needless to say, he was the sanity I needed. I cried about everything I saw. I panicked for a whole 2 days straight, about how my life was ruined, and I didn't know what to do. He had to sleep on the couch in the guest room because I was so scared of my ex coming in. He handled it like a champ. I love you, Dad. He called the police, a lawyer, and most recently a therapist for me, because I was in the most horrible state of my entire life. We're currently sorting out the legal stuff, I haven't talked to my ex, except for letting her know it was over and that she's a sick psychopath. My dad handled the rest. I changed all my passwords, and I'm now looking for a place to live. Sorry for the brief update. My mind is tangled. Please ask questions if you want to know more. Edit. By the way, thank you to every single person who gave me advice, talked to me over DMs, and was generally concerned about me. I appreciate every single one of you. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Bro, that's so nuts. Why are people so goddamn twisted? I am just glad you are safe. Thank God for good family. Now you can pursue the success you are entitled to through your hard work. Curious, did Ms. Psycho have any sort of excuse or explanation for her diabolical behavior? Reply. She did, but I have yet to check the abundance of messages she left for me, IDK if I ever will. Commenter. 2. That is totally understandable. I imagine it's a bunch of delusional, self-serving horseshit. She needs help, like professional help. Final. Update. Went back on here and saw a bunch of DMs, and some of y'all came here quite recently. I've answered all of the DMs so far, and before I let the next batch of people wait, you'd think there wouldn't be after 2 years. I'll give you a quick update. Spoiler, it isn't that interesting. TLDR. We ended up not taking her to court over it. This is quite controversial considering the abhorrent things she's done to me, but I do not regret this decision. The satisfaction of seeing her get punished would have been overshadowed by the sheer amount of dread, anxiety, and fear I would have faced in those court hearings. I was a nervous mess. I couldn't eat for weeks without throwing up. My dad had to settle most of the important stuff because I physically couldn't. Thank you, Dad. On the bright side, our lawyers settled the situation beautifully in private, and I haven't had any problems with her since that I am aware of. I've moved houses, got a stable job, and found the closure and justice I was looking for through therapy. I hope she did as well. We've had zero contact since then, and I still haven't read any of the messages she sent me those years ago. Of course, I'm nowhere near done. With my journey, I still have all of my social media accounts set to private and insist on keeping a low profile online. I still get anxiety, especially when there's problems at work, but I haven't had any panic attacks in months. And my therapist has been great. I don't know how she's doing. I don't know if she's moved on, or if she's seen this story float around the web. Hello, YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat. I don't know how much she knows about how my life is currently going, but nothing's happened since then that I could attribute to her schemes. Sorry if this update is kind of a jumbled mess. I just woke up, and I've repressed a lot of what happened. Thank you all for your kind messages. Cheers. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. But how did she react when you broke up with her? I need to know. LOL. Reply. No clue. It was over text. I haven't opened our DMs since. Commenter 2. The only thing I can say to you, OP, is I hope you're never given reason to regret not proceeding with criminal prosecution against your ex. Also, that you are a much better person than me. I'm not sure I could let it go, but I'm a person that believes in vengeance. I do. However, have great respect for those who find it in them to let things go, whether they forgive or not. It takes more strength to let something go than to pursue vengeance. What she did was utterly monstrous and horrific, and I can only hope you'll continue to recover and that you get the life you deserve and want. Sending hugs and best wishes from an internet stranger. Stories number 3. Friend won't stop pushing my child-free boundaries. I'll ruin your fucking dinner. Don't start none. Won't be none. Saw a post recently of a woman whose aunt kept pressuring her about having kids, and it reminded me of my own experience with this. Many years ago, I 37F had my first frenemy. Never had one before, so my autistic ass didn't recognize the issues or patterns in her, and just assumed my weird brain was picking up on shit that wasn't there. This incident opened my eyes, and I'm so happy to say she's no longer in my life. All the time we knew each other, she spoke about how much she wanted kids, and even wanted to adopt in addition to having her own. I thought that was great and a genuinely heartwarming plan. She, however, absolutely hated that I didn't want children. Every few months she'd push the subject, tell me I was weird, I was broken, I'll change my mind. It irritated the shit out of me, but I never snapped at her over it because she was my friend. I just assumed it was my brain being sensitive and tried to keep the discussions matter-of-fact and civil. Welp, I got sick of that shit after a few years of it. The final throwdown. At our friend's wedding of all places, she decides to ambush me. Again, this time at the dinner table with a combination of our other friends and complete strangers, who are all trying to hear the speeches. That's when she decided to crack into this old chestnut. From across the whole table no less, I was pissed. I kept my temper and tried to divert her attention back to the whole reason we're there. That whole wedding thing. After poking and prodding, and seeing she's getting no where, she finally just gets this shit-eating smirk and says, "Well, I hope you get pregnant," and goes to turn back around. What the absolute fuck? So she wishes something upon me I have many times said I want nothing to do with? That's when it clicked. Oh shit, she's not my friend. So from across the table I loudly reply, "Why would you wish I'd have to get an abortion? That's so fucked up to wish on someone." People at other tables heard. She flamed up bright red and after a minute, left the table in a fluster. She came back after dinner had already been served, so hers was ice cold. She tried coming at me for how that made her look, and what the fuck was wrong with me? I blasted her again with every reason I'd given her for years about why I didn't want children. Not that you need any reason to make that decision for yourself, but I have some real good reasons, PTSD and genetic reasons. So why on earth would she wish for me to get pregnant and have a child with a potentially very poor quality of life, or to have to get an abortion? What the fuck is wrong with you? The final straw for our friendship was actually when she complained to a mutual friend about me being dramatic over a very real breast cancer scare because she has tit cysts, and somehow I don't deserve any sympathy, but that's a whole other story. Commenter. No, oof, good response. Something similar happened with an extended family member. For context, I am openly a lesbian. So after yet another back and forth on the child-free argument, she goes, "You never know when a happy accident could happen." To which I replied, "It wouldn't be a happy accident because that would mean I got raped." She complained to my mom, who just said, "You know she's gay, what did you expect? Leave her alone." Commenter 2. I remember my cousin asking me when I was going to have kids. I said, "When the Archangel Michael comes down to speak to me." She backed away slowly. Commenter 3. You could have said, "You want someone to rape me?" Reply, "Nah. My partner of many years was right next to me. He wasn't yet snipped at the time, so if I got knocked up it would have been his." Commenter 4. Jesus, Bruce Lee. Christ, the fuck is wrong with that woman? Glad to hear she's out of your life. Stories. Number 4. My girlfriend wanted me to split my work bonus with her, and now she thinks I don't prioritize her. I'm a 27-year-old guy working in sales at a mid-sized tech company in Ohio. For context, I've been busting my ass the last few years trying to climb out of student debt from college. I wasn't born into money, so every dollar I make has always felt like it needs a purpose. I live fairly frugally. Nothing extreme. But I don't blow money on big purchases. I drive a paid-off car, and I've been renting a small apartment near downtown Columbus. This year was a big one for me at work. Sales are competitive, stressful, and honestly soul-crushing sometimes. But I landed a few major clients and closed strong in Q4. That meant I earned a year-end bonus of about $5,000. For me, that's huge. My first thought when I saw the number was, finally, I can hit another big chunk off my student loans. I've been paying them aggressively for the last 2 years, and I'm almost at the halfway mark. To me, every payment brings me closer to freedom. Here's where things get messy. I've been dating my girlfriend, Rachel 26F, for just about 2 years now. Met through mutual friends at a barbecue. She's fun, social, extroverted, and very different from me in some ways. She's a teacher and doesn't make a ton of money, but she loves to travel, go out, and make experiences a priority. I respect that about her, even though my mindset has always been, get stable first, play later. When I told Rachel about my bonus, I expected her to be proud of me. And at first, she was. She got all excited, hugged me, and said, "Babe, this is amazing. We can finally take that trip we've been talking about." Now, the trip she's referring to is something she's brought up on and off for months. Going to Mexico or maybe Europe together. I've always told her, someday, when I'm in a better spot financially. She usually laughed it off but kept bringing it up. This time she seemed really set on the idea. She started pulling up flight prices on her phone, talking about how we could spend a week in Barcelona, how it would be the perfect memory for our second anniversary, etc. I listened, but after a while, I had to stop her. I said, "Rachel, I'd love to travel with you, but I really need to use this money to pay down my loans. It's the responsible move right now." Her whole mood shifted instantly. She set her phone down and said, "So you're telling me you'd rather throw money at debt than make memories with me?" I told her, "It's not about that. Paying off debt is for the future, so for both of us, potentially, once I'm debt-free, we'll have way more freedom to do stuff like travel. Right now, this just makes sense." She didn't take it well. She argued that since we've been together for 2 years, my money isn't just mine anymore. She said, "If you really see me in your future, then you should want to use your money in a way that benefits us both. Not just you." That floored me. We don't live together. We don't share finances. We've never once had a conversation about combining money. Yet I pay my bills, she pays hers. If we go out, we usually split or trade off. I've never expected her to pay my debts, and I certainly never thought she'd feel entitled to my work. Bonus. I tried to explain that becoming financially stable now is for us. If we're talking about a future together, I told her I'm not against traveling, but I can't justify blowing $5,000 on 1 week when that same money knocks months off my debt. She got quiet, then cold. She barely spoke the rest of the night. Since then, she's been distant. I found out from one of her friends who's always been chatty with me that Rachel has been telling people I don't prioritize her, and that I'm selfish for choosing numbers on a screen over our relationship. That stung. I don't see myself as selfish. To me, this is about building something real and stable. But the way she's acting makes me question if maybe I should have just given in and spent some of it on a trip. The tension hasn't gone away. She'll make little comments like, "Must be nice to keep all your money to yourself," or, "Guess your loans are your real girlfriend." I've tried to keep calm, but it's eating at me. I keep replaying it in my head. Am I being too rigid? Should I have split the bonus somehow? Like maybe $3,000 to debt, $2,000 to something fun? Or is she out of line for expecting that level of financial merging when we aren't even living together yet? Comments. Commenter. You realize if you sign any legal documents partnering with this woman and it goes sour, she's coming for all of your money, right? Actually, never mind. She's coming for your money now. Commenter 2. My BF and I have been together a little over a year. Don't live together. Definitely don't share finances. I'd be happy with a nice dinner. Would never immediately assume he should spend a bunch on a trip for us. Commenter 3. NTJ. And please rethink this relationship. Marriages are often made miserable by a core difference in financial matters. Before you go much further, I'd ask to see hers, as I have a feeling she may be more relaxed about debt. Remember, her debt becomes yours when you marry unless you get a prenup that specifically spells out that it's not. Even then, that will only cover the debt she's run up prior to marriage. Anything else will be on you. Just a thought, and of course, throw your bonus at your loans. Why on earth would you keep paying interest on money when you could knock some of it off right now? Insane memories can be made from next to nothing. Commenter 4. I have been happily married for more than 50 years, and came here to say, never would either of us lay any claim to the other's bonus money. You are wise to pay on your debt. Maybe not so wise to consider a future with such a selfish and short-sighted woman. Stories number 5. My ex left her dog with me for over a year. Now she suddenly wants him back. I'm a 29-year-old guy living in Denver, and I guess you could say, I didn't expect my biggest post-breakup problem to involve a 12-pound dachshund named Frank. For some backstory. I dated Chloe, 28. For almost 3 years we met through friends at a concert, and in the beginning things were amazing. She was fun, adventurous, always the life of the party. But she also had this impulsive streak. Quit jobs on a whim, moved apartments, every few months, bounced from idea to idea without much follow-through. I was the opposite. Steady job in IT sales, same apartment for years, a little boring but reliable. At first we balanced each other out, but over time it became exhausting. The breakup itself, about 14 months ago, was messy. Lots of late-night arguments, tears. Maybe we should take a break. Talks. Finally, after one especially bad fight, she packed up and said she was leaving. I was heartbroken, but not surprised. The night she left, she sat on my couch with Frank, her senior dachshund who I had grown ridiculously attached to. He wasn't just her dog anymore. He was family. He'd follow me everywhere, even curl up by my desk while I worked from home. Chloe looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Can you watch him for a couple weeks while I figure out my living situation? I can't take him to my new place yet, it's just temporary." "Of course," I said. Yes, I loved that little dog. 2 weeks didn't sound like a big deal, but weeks turned into months. For the first few months, Chloe would text every now and then, "How's Frank?" or "Send me a picture of him." She never came to visit. Never dropped off food. Never sent a single dollar for his vet bills or his food. Just surface-level check-ins. I brushed it off, telling myself she was busy getting her life back together. After about 6 months, reality hit me. Frank's food and meds weren't cheap. He was getting older, he had joint problems, and there were vet visits to keep up with. I texted Chloe, "Hey, are you getting Frank soon? His care is expensive, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep doing this." She responded a day later, "I'm still looking for a pet-friendly place, thank you so much for helping." That was it. No offer of money, no timeline, nothing. By the 10-month mark, Frank had a big health scare. He developed a lump that needed to be removed, and between the surgery and meds, I dropped over $300. At the time, I just lost my job, so that bill hurt. But I didn't even bother texting Chloe. She hadn't reached out in months. In my mind, Frank wasn't her dog anymore. She abandoned him. He was mine. Fast forward to last week. Out of nowhere, Chloe shows up at my apartment. She looked different. Hair dyed, new clothes, holding a fancy purse I know she couldn't afford back when we were together. With her was this tall guy, clearly her new boyfriend, standing there with his arms crossed like her backup. Muscle, Chloe smiled like nothing had happened and said, "I'm here for Frank. Thanks so much for watching him all this time." I was floored. I just stood there for a second before saying, "What are you talking about? You haven't seen Frank in over a year. I've been his caretaker. He's not just a temporary thing you can pick up whenever." Her face dropped. She snapped back. "He's my dog. I trusted you to watch him. You don't just get to keep him because you're bitter about the breakup." I told her point blank. "You abandoned him. You didn't send money. You didn't visit. You didn't even check in for months. I've been the one feeding him, walking him, paying for his vet bills. He's my dog now." That set her off. She started crying, saying, "Frank is my emotional support animal. I need him. He got me through so much before, and I can't live without him." Her boyfriend chimed in, trying to act tough, saying I was stealing her property, and that I needed to hand the dog over before they took further steps. I shut the door in their faces since then. It's been hell. Chloe has been blowing up my phone with texts like, "You're heartless. You know how much he means to me. I'm reporting you for theft. If you loved me at all, you'd do the right thing." Her boyfriend even sent me a threatening message. "If you don't give Frank back, you're going to regret it." Meanwhile, Frank is curled up at my feet as I write this, completely unaware of the drama. He's happy, healthy, spoiled, and he's mine. But my friends are split. Some say, "She abandoned him. He's yours. End of story." Others think I'm being a petty ex and holding on to the dog out of spite. One friend even said, "Dogs are property legally. He's still hers, and you should at least let her pay you back for the expenses." I don't feel like this is about money, though it's about commitment. Chloe left Frank for over a year without so much as a bag of food or a vet payment. To me, that's abandonment. Now, I'm stuck wondering, did I do the right thing? Or am I just clinging to Frank to avoid letting Chloe win? Comments. Commenter. NTA. You have recent vet bills in your name, so legally the dog is yours. If he has a microchip, get it registered in your name ASAP. If Frank really was her emotional support dog, she never would have left him with you. Commenter. 2. If Frank really was her emotional support dog, she never would have left him with you. Commenter 3. You are NTAI actually did something similar with a relative who abandoned a dog with us, and then ask to have her back a year and a half later. That is your dog now. Do not take her calls. Commenter. 4. She has not even checked in on the dog in how long? Not so much as a text or a surprise shipment of treats from Amazon? She abandoned him. He's your dog now. NTA stories. Number 6. Aita for refusing to speak to my friend and end our 15+ year long friendship after she took my purse, used my money, and lost it. So I 21F am just about to leave from a vacation with a friend also 21F, and I'm honestly still sick over what happened. A few days ago, she took my expensive Zadig and Voltaire purse, without asking. This purse was a Christmas gift from my sister, and has huge sentimental value. I've spent the past few years taking really good care of it, because it means so much to me. When she took it, she didn't even tell me. I only found out after the fact that she used it to go to the laundromat, and in the process used my money, which she also didn't ask to take. For context, the purse had $40 in cash and a bunch of quarters, a gift from my sister's best friend's mom, $60 in notes, and at least $20 in coins, so we're talking over $100 total, not to mention the purse itself. And now, the purse is gone. She lost it. I was obviously upset, not yelling or blaming her, just crying and saying I wasn't mad, just hurt. I told her how much that purse meant to me, and how hard I've worked to keep it safe for years. Instead of apologizing, she got huffy with me, rolled her eyes and said, "How much does it cost? I'll just replace it." In this angry, dismissive tone. She has a very defensive and confrontational nature that makes me feel bullied and small, so I find it hard to stand up to her. But it's not just about the money. It's about trust, about respect, and about losing something deeply personal to me. Since then, she hasn't apologized at all. In fact, she's acting annoyed that I'm upset. Now we're on the last night of our trip, and I've decided to just be neutral and quiet for the journey home. But once we're back, I plan to stop speaking to her entirely. I feel like she violated my boundaries, disrespected my belongings, and is now making me feel like I'm too sensitive for being hurt. But some mutual friends are already making me feel like I'm being dramatic and should let it go because it's just a bag. So, Aita for cutting her off and refusing to speak to her after this? Comments. Commenter. 1. She's not a friend. She also needs to pay you back for the purse. She stole it actually, so she's a thief. So your choice on how to handle that going forward. NTA. Commenter 2. She didn't lose it. She stole it and likely decided to keep it. She probably still has it hidden away. Check her stuff when she's not looking or when she's in the shower. I'd bet my last penny that you'll find it hidden in her suitcase. She's not a friend. No friend would ever do such a thing. If she only went to the laundromat, then how did she manage to lose it? She didn't. She has it. Try telling her that you will be reporting it to the police. Commenter 3. NTA. If the purse was worth anything, she probably sold it. She isn't your friend. Even if she picked it up by accident, she knowingly spent your money and won't return anything. Cut her off and file a police report for theft. Commenter 4. Yeah, I don't think so. Especially when it comes to my bags. I have bags that I've paid thousands for. You never touch anybody else's purse. On the other hand, I feel that she is full of and has been wanting the bag, and saw an opportunity to swipe it. Update. Aita 4. Refusing to speak to my friend and end our 15+ year-long friendship after she took my purse, used my money and lost it? On the flight home, she asked me to mind her passport in my bag. Even though she had her own backpack, I agreed just to keep the peace because I didn't want to deal with any attitude or fighting. When we landed, she turned to me and asked, "Do you have my passport?" In this snappy tone, I was still hurt and wanted to get one last jab in. So I said, using the exact words she said to me all week about my missing purse, "I was checking my bag the whole time to make sure your passport was there, but maybe it'll show up when we get off the plane." I regretted saying it immediately. She snapped in front of other passengers, finally acknowledging that I'd been upset about the purse. But in the most cruel and dismissive way, she said, "Well, at least I didn't throw a hissy fit bawling crying for hours over a purse." That was the last straw. She acknowledged my obvious upset, yet still would not apologize. Once we got our bags at the airport, I told her I wanted to check her suitcase for my purse. I said if she refused, I'd involved the police. She tried to say I was violating her privacy, which is hilarious considering she took my purse and went through my belongings. I told her if it wasn't there, she had nothing to be worried about. I also made it clear I wasn't going to touch any of her stuff, that I wasn't interested in taking others' belongings without permission, just checking for what was mine. She was absolutely fuming, face red, shaking, visibly furious. Then she shoved her bag at me and told me to go ahead. I opened a zipped compartment. Inside was a black trash bag. Inside that was a red Target bag. Inside that, drum roll, my purse. All of the money was still inside. The cash, the euro coins, but no quarters. I was honestly so shocked I couldn't even ask why she had it, or what her plan was. I just said, thanks, and walked away with my stuff. I got on the bus home, and haven't spoken to her since. I wish I hadn't been so emotionally drained to have given her a piece of my mind. She's since blocked me with no apology or explanation. As a side note, her mom, who doesn't know we're not speaking, called me at 3 a.m. crying. She was saying how badly she feels treated by her daughter and her husband, how she's constantly belittled. I won't get into any of what had just happened, but it definitely gave me more perspective. This girl is a cruel and horrendous person with little to no empathy, and I think maybe a sociopath. Anyway, I got my purse back, but the whole thing left a really bad taste in my mouth. I still don't fully understand what she was trying to do, and honestly, I don't think I want to. I'm just relieved it's over. What do you guys think she was aiming to do with the purse? Very little of my money inside was used. So strange, thanks again, edit. I didn't realize this would gain such traction so quickly. Thank you to everybody. Also, she chronically watches the Smosh YouTube channel where they review Reddit stories, like Aita, etc. I believe I'm just laughing thinking about, if this came up, I feel like she's so self-absorbed. She would not clock that. It's about her. Nonetheless, I created this Reddit account to specifically post this so it can't be traced. Back to me, comments. Commenter 1. Why haven't you told your friends and her mom about what happened? It's like you want her to rewrite the story to make you the villain. Reply, my friends are aware, and my entire family. They told me they are disgraced by her behavior and to cut off contact with her. The friends on vacation, however, whether they sided with her or were actually too afraid to side with me, I'm not sure. I haven't reached out to them, and from advice from the previous post, I am not continuing my friendships with them. I can't be friends with someone who is too weak to stand up for me. Her mother was drink driving and in a bad spot. So I felt it was not the right time to bring up the situation as she was very upset. Commenter 2. What do I think she was trying to do with it? I think she felt a lot of jealousy and was trying to take something of yours to make you miserable, because it makes her happy. Also, why the hell is her mom calling you at 3 in the morning? Was she drunk? Reply, yes. Drink driving, so was a dire situation, and I'm in the midst of trying to get her professional help. Without the rest of her family knowing, sticky situation. They will come at her for coming to me. Commenter 3. She was going to steal your purse. That's what she was doing. Your ex-friend sounds like garbage. Reply. I don't know how she lives with herself, honestly. Commenter 4. NTA. She took it because she could. Because it was important to you. Because she needed to punish or knock you down you for reasons that only exist in her head. Whether she was using you as a punching bag or punishing you for something she created out of thin air, taking the bag had little to so with you and everything to do with her need to feel powerful and in control. Honestly, just cutting off all contact and moving on is the best choice. Trying to figure out her motives or get closure is just a pathway to more abuse and manipulation. Reply. Thank you very much. I agree completely. That behavior, from an adult, is disheartening and frankly frightening. I don't intend on being her friend, regardless of our lengthy history. Stories number 7. I followed and reported a drunk driver. Then I got a ticket for driving past curfew. Last week, I was driving home from my friend's house when I noticed someone driving very erratically. They were swerving when there was nothing to avoid, and they couldn't stay in their lane, so I called the police and followed them. The police caught up to us after a while and they pulled over the driver. It turns out that he was extremely drunk, and when they gave him the sobriety tests, he failed them miserably. He was arrested, and the police asked me to write a statement and give them my information. I gave one of the cops my driver's license. I'm under 18, so he could copy my address, and he said that I wasn't allowed to be driving because it was past 11. I told him that I would have been home by 11, but I noticed the drunk driver, and I didn't want someone to get hurt, so I followed them. Plus, when I called them, they asked me to keep following the man, even though it was technically past curfew. The officer said that it didn't matter, even if me driving past curfew meant that World War III was prevented, that the law is the law, and that he had to give me a ticket because I broke curfew. He said he would have to give me another ticket if I drove home myself, so I called my parents and they came and picked me up and drove the car. I was driving home. This feels so wrong. I did a good thing and I'm getting punished for it. Am I really going to have to pay this ticket, or is there some way out? I'm thinking of calling the police station and asking them to reduce the fine, but at this point I'm really anxious because I have to mail something back to the court in a few days, otherwise I'll get arrested, and I don't know what to do. I'm in Pennsylvania if it matters. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. It's not up to the police to reduce the fine. You have a court date, show up and tell the judge what happened and let them decide your fate. Reply, I don't have a court date yet. I have the ticket which says that I have to pay the fine or plead not guilty. So you're saying I should plead not guilty and go to court. Commenter 2. I would definitely plead not guilty and go to court. Also see if you can get the 911 audio recording for your call, since it has the request from the dispatcher that you keep following the drunk driver, so you can play it for the judge. This long comment by about the justification defense is worth the read. Basically what that is. The justification defense is a legal principle where an individual admits to committing a criminal act but argues that their actions were necessary and therefore justified under the circumstances. Instead of denying the act, they claim it wasn't wrong. This defense is rooted in the idea that in certain situations, a person's conduct, while technically a crime, is socially acceptable or even desirable because it prevents a greater harm. Common examples include self-defense, where a person uses force to protect themselves from an imminent threat, or the necessity defense, where an individual breaks the law to avoid a more significant and unavoidable harm. If successful, the justification defense can lead to an acquittal, as the court deems the defendant's actions to be non-criminal. Update. I took the advice that I was given, and I pled not guilty. Last week I went to court, and here's what happened. I brought copies of my cell phone's call log showing that I called 911 before curfew, as well as the same records from my carrier. I also got a copy of the drunk driver's criminal complaint with the help of the court clerk, and I printed out a copy of the justification law. The hearing started with the officers saying that I was pulled over on the side of the road, that he went to investigate why I was there, and that I voluntarily confessed to driving past curfew. He said that that was all he needed to prove, in order to prove my guilt, and basically left it at that. Then it was my turn to speak. I said that while I did drive past curfew, it was because I had noticed an erratic driver, and I was following him because I thought he was going to hurt someone. I felt that if I had let the man go, that he would kill somebody, and that 911 had told me to keep following him. I gave my evidence to the judge and to the police officer, and I said that I would have been home on time if not for the drunk driver. I argued that I had a reasonable belief that the man was very drunk, and that the police are accusing the driver of having a 12 BAC. The judge asked the officer about the driver and he confirmed the BAC finally. I brought up the justification defense. I argued that driving past curfew was a summary offense, and that drunk driving was at minimum a misdemeanor and at worst a first-degree felony. If he killed someone, I said that the law clearly provided a defense to my conduct because drunk driving was clearly the greater of the two evils, and because I drove in an otherwise safe manner. The judge agreed and found me not guilty. He said that I had proven my defense by a preponderance of the evidence and that I had done the right thing. I'm going to get my collateral back in the mail in a few days, and my record is clean. TLDR. Went to court. Police officer basically said the law is the law. I presented my defense that I was preventing a greater harm under the justification law. Judge agreed. I was found not guilty. Stories. Number 8. My baby's grandma didn't feed him for 7 hours. I'm 15 and my baby is 9 weeks old. I generally try not to ask for help from anyone besides his dad, and sometimes my best friend, because I'm trying to set the expectation that even though I'm young, I'm still his parent and I can take care of him and make decisions when it comes to his well-being. My baby's dad, James, and I live with his dad and stepmom, and his stepmom can be really difficult. Her advice is very outdated and often unsolicited, and she doesn't really like me as a person. She definitely views me as, for lack of better words, a slut that's ruined James's life. I try to get along with her for everyone's sake, but we definitely still have a strained relationship, James and I. But mostly me had a lot to do today, and I was really stressing out about getting it all done with the baby with us. We both had our first therapy appointments today. I had a follow-up appointment with my Objin. Our AP Lit teacher was coming into school on a Sunday to help us finish the memoirs we've been working on. And on top of all that, we had to go buy a dress for me and a suit for him for homecoming next weekend. We definitely overbooked ourselves, and I felt really guilty about it, but I gave in and asked for her to watch our son, Elliot, while we were gone. She was fine with it and said she could just hang out all day. I was still very stressed out about leaving him, and so James and I wrote out exactly the routine we keep when we're home with him. During the day, we rotate days going to school in person, our expectations and routines for his needs, and I left a full can of formula, 4 bottles, and 10 diapers, with wipes on the counter next to a letter, telling her everything she would need to know, and thanking her for watching him. Everything was fine when we were gone, and she sent a picture of him doing tummy time, so I was actually feeling okay about leaving him. But when we got home, he was just absolutely screaming in his crib, and she was reading on the couch. I asked her why she wasn't with him, and she said she took it as an opportunity for him to learn to cry it out. That made me really mad because she knows we're not doing that. But I was just trying to make sure he was okay, and so I didn't say anything. I did ask her when he last ate, and she said she never fed him because she wouldn't give him formula, and I didn't pump before we left. I didn't confront her about it, and just left to feed Elliot. That was all 2 hours ago now, and Elliot couldn't calm down until 20 minutes ago. His dad and I were literally crying with him, trying to get him to calm down, because we're both so upset at his stepmom. She literally starved our child and forced an infant who was without the people he's been around since birth for the very first time to sit by himself and cry for hours. I'm so fucking furious at her, and I don't know what to do. She absolutely isn't allowed to be alone with him anymore, but we still live with her, and I'm scared she'll harm our baby. I know it wasn't intentional, but she's neglecting an infant, and I don't know how to set firmer boundaries with her. Comments. Commenter 1. This was intentional. She hates you enough to want to harm your baby. This is not a safe situation for your family. I'm sorry. Commenter 2. This, even the most old-school, outdated parenting advice type of people that I know, would not have done this. This is straight-up neglect. Commenter 3. Yes, take baby to a doctor and get this recorded. He will get checked out for any other injuries she could have caused. Then you know he's okay and safe. Also, you do not want this to come back on you either. If he does have other injuries, people will assume you, the teen mom, over the grandma. Commenter 4. How the hell is that not intentional? She deliberately ignored your instructions and starved her grandchild for 7 hours. Because she doesn't believe in formula? WTF? I'm angry for you, poor baby. I would want to get baby checked out by a doctor ASAP, because 7 hours is a long time for a 9-week-old. Babies that young can get dehydrated very quickly. They need to feed every few hours. I'm so sorry this happened. To you, I can't even imagine. I would be furious. Never let her watch the baby again. I don't have a village. All the grandparents are too old, have health issues. My Mill recently watched my baby for 4 hours, and she did feed him, but was late doing so and didn't feed him enough. She ignored my instructions, and I probably won't trust her to babysit again, at least not if I'm going to be longer than like an hour. Not having a village to help really sucks. Commenter 5. That's my thing. Formula is not just food, it's hydration at this point too. Since he's too young for water. He could have gotten really dehydrated. He's not going to starve to the point of injury after 7 hours, but I'd be worried about his hydration. TBH update. James and I talked to his dad, and we decided it was best to take him to the ER. The doctor said he was severely dehydrated, to the point where they had to put a tube through his nose because he was refusing the bottle and breast. We're staying overnight with him in the hospital, and seeing a social worker in the morning to talk over our options. James's dad called his wife and told her not to be there when we get back tomorrow, and that he wants a divorce, so hopefully we won't be dealing with her anymore. This whole thing has been really hard for James and I to even see happening. I feel so guilty for asking her to watch him, and I know I shouldn't have been even planning to go to homecoming when I could be staying home with him instead. We love Elliot more than I can even put here, and it kills me to see him like this. He's asleep on James's chest right now, and I'm sitting in a chair next to his bed crying because I can't believe that woman was evil enough to punish my beautiful little baby by starving him. It's so hard trying to balance everything, and I'm trying hard to be a good mom and student and friend, and it just feels impossible right now. I didn't plan on getting pregnant, and I certainly didn't plan on my pregnancy and motherhood journey being as hard as it has been, and it's just fucking evil for her to punish my child for a mistake his parents made at 14 comments. Commenter 1. I'm glad to read this. She belongs in jail. Commenter 2. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're being very responsible for such a young person in a difficult situation. You had no reason to believe an adult would abuse your child. You left detailed instructions and did nothing wrong. You are allowed to still want to do a few things for yourself, especially when you leave your child in the care of who you thought was a responsible caretaker. Reply. Thank you so much. Commenter 3. You left your child with someone who you thought would be a safe person, so you could go out and experience something important to you. You didn't do anything wrong. If there was no history of this, how could you have known she would do this? If you knew she was capable of doing something like this, and you still chose to leave him with her, sure. But that's not what happened. Sweetheart, you're doing the best you can with the resources you have available to you. And now that you have more information, you will make different choices next time and seek out new resources to support you. Making a mistake in trusting someone who you should be able to inherently trust does not make you a bad mother. The fact you took your child to get medical attention makes you a good mother. The fact you're so upset about this makes you a great mother. The fact you see the situation for how unacceptable it is, and you're making new decisions and placing new safeguards in to ensure this never happens again, makes you a superb mother. This was hard, and this shouldn't have happened. I'm so sorry you all had to experience this. You will all grow from this experience. There will be more hardships along the way, but experiencing them together and getting through them together as a family unit will be key to getting to the other side of them. Please take care of yourselves. That includes you being kind to yourself. Commenter 4. I'm so glad you guys went to the ER. You're an amazing mom, and you're handling everything so well. I'm very glad his dad is taking action against the grandma, and I hope he follows through and does leave her. What she did to your baby was beyond cruel. You obviously love your baby very much, and I hope things get easier for you. Guys have done everything right, so don't blame yourself. Commenter 5. I'm really glad your baby is okay now and getting proper care. You did the right thing. I'm glad his father sided with you guys as well. That being said, I really think you should press charges against her. The hospital social worker can help you. Reply. I'm anxious about getting the cops involved in any way because we're so young, but I'm talking over pressing charges with James. Commenter 6. Depending on how badly he was dehydrated, charges might be pressed no matter what. She committed a crime by not feeding the infant. Commenter 7. Yeah, there would be a mandated report, and the state can press charges without the parents. Stories number 9. Aita for removing my sister-in-law from the family Spotify plan. I got married a couple weeks ago, and we're in the process of merging our finances. This includes going through all of our subscriptions to reduce redundancy and sync our bills. In doing so, we realized that my husband's brother's ex-wife is still on his family Spotify plan. Because she is, we can't add me. My husband started the family plan about 6 years ago for himself and his 2 older brothers. It allows him to have 4 separate accounts in the plan, and the cost per account is lower than paying for them individually. When the plan was created, each brother got an account, and the last account went to the middle brother's wife. The plan is under my husband's name, so he is the administrator. He gets billed annually and the others reimburse him for their share. At the time, This made perfect sense. They all saved some money. The middle brother was the only one with a spouse, and although my husband and I had been together for about a year at the time, I was about to start grad school so I could still get the student pricing and thus had no reason to join the plan. Now, it makes less sense. I'm out of school, we're married, and the middle brother got divorced about a year and a half ago. We can easily afford to keep my separate Spotify. But we also realized the ex never paid my husband back when the plan renewed this year. So we agreed it made more sense to remove her and add me in order to simplify our subscriptions. So that's exactly what my husband did. He deactivated her, joined my Spotify to the plan, and texted his middle brother to let the ex know we didn't text her directly because she became extremely volatile during their divorce. So the brother asked our whole family not to contact her directly, so all communication could flow through a specific moderated messaging app that their lawyers recommended. This has caused a family conflict. The middle brother is mad at us because he feels like we're forcing him to have another fight with his ex just so we could save a buck. It's true that she will definitely be set off by this, plus he feels like she deserves to stay on the plan because they were together for a long time, aka longer than my husband and I. We can definitely see how it sucks for him to have to reach out to his ex and inevitably piss her off. On the other hand, the oldest brother agrees with us. She can't stay on their family plan forever just to avoid a conflict. It's healthier to sever these last ties. She chose to leave. The family divorce was her call, so she gave up any family-related benefits. And there are logical reasons for me to join the plan now. So internet strangers, AITA, for asking to join my husband's family Spotify plan, and thereby forcing his brother to have a conflict with his ex. Comments. Commenter 1. And texted his middle brother to let the ex know. I don't think it is necessary that middle brother lets her know. She is bound to notice the next time she tries to use Spotify, and will either just accept that she is not part of that family any more by her own choice, or will reach out from her side to bitch about it, in which case middle brother has the same fight as he is fearing for when he reaches out to let her know. And if she complains about it, the answer to, "Why did you remove me?" should simply be, "You didn't pay for it at the last renewal, so we assumed you don't want to be on it anymore." And who knows, maybe she is not even actively using it currently, and not paying for it was actually her way of saying, "Am not part of this deal anymore." Commenter 2. She wasn't paying for the plan, so she shouldn't be on it. Her leaving the family is also a good reason to kick her off, but harsher to say. Commenter 3. This is fairly straightforward. You say she hasn't paid her share this year, so she loses the right to be kept on the plan. Her ex, the brother, has told everyone not to contact her directly. You're not forcing him to get into a fight. He's created this bottleneck. He has my sympathy, but he's wrong about her deserving anything. I can't blame him for not wanting to deal with her, but he's not paying her share either. Commenter 4. My brother broke with his ex and she and her family were still using his Netflix plan. They had profiles on there and everything. When me and my younger brother found out due to watching something on his TV, we immediately addressed it with him and our mom. He was quite defensive and said that she had profiles and watch history on there that he didn't want to disrupt. Like, WTF? She cheated on you with one of your friends and you still defend and look out for her like this. Me and my mom were raging. I deleted all her profiles and kicked off her session later that day. Stories number 10. My dying father asked me for forgiveness, but my last words to him left the whole room in silence. I'm a 42-year-old man living in Pennsylvania, and I guess I should start with this. My childhood was not the kind you look back on fondly. Technically, I was an only child between my parents. My mom had me out of wedlock, and in the earliest years she used me like a pawn in her war with my dad. She told me endless lies about him, that he was abusive, that he didn't want me, that he was a monster. She'd weaponize me in custody disputes, whispering poison in my ear to keep me scared of him. Eventually, after years of fighting, my dad won custody. My mom pretty much vanished not long after she drifted in and out of my life, never steady enough to be a parent. I thought maybe things would be better with my dad. For a while, he was decent. He was strict, but he tried. He worked a steady job, took me fishing sometimes, even helped me with school projects. But then he remarried. That's when everything went downhill. His new wife, Sharon, was deeply religious and very controlling. My dad followed her lead like she was his compass. They had 5 more kids together, and suddenly I was no longer the center of his world. I was the outcast, the reminder of a marriage he didn't want to remember. Their household became suffocating. Leaned hard into religion, but not in a loving, forgiving way. It was the kind where everything I did was sinful. If I didn't pray right, if I questioned them, if I didn't obey instantly, it was punishment, and not just lectures. There were belts, slaps, screaming tirades. Sharon told me more than once that I was the devil's mistake, and that my mother had cursed me into existence. My dad never defended me. In fact, he often joined in. By the time I was 15, I couldn't take it anymore. I ran away, slept on friends' couches, worked odd jobs, scraped together enough to survive. I built my own life, because staying in that house was killing me inside. For decades, I had no relationship with my father. Every now and then, I'd hear updates, usually through cousins or family gossip. Your dad is doing great. Your dad's kids are all honor roll. Your dad is active in the church. He reinvented himself as this pillar of the community, this godly man. Meanwhile, nobody talked about the nights I cried myself to sleep, or the bruises, or the names he called me. It was like my pain got erased from the narrative. I tried to move on. Therapy helped, friends helped, carving out a life on my own terms helped, but the bitterness never fully went away. Fast forward to now. I get a call from one of my half-sisters, Rebecca. She says Dad is dying cancer. He doesn't have long, and he wants to see me. My first reaction? Hell no. Why would I put myself through that? But then the pressure started. Cousins called, an aunt texted. Even my half-brothers messaged me, saying things like, he just wants peace. You don't want this regret on your conscience. Be the bigger man. After weeks of back and forth, I finally caved. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the little boy inside me still wanting some kind of closure. So I went. When I walked into that house, his house, it was packed. Sharon was there, of course. All 5 of their kids' spouses. Even some neighbors from church. The atmosphere was heavy. Everyone whispering, crying, clinging to each other. To them, this was a holy man about to meet his maker. To me, it felt like stepping into a play where everyone already knew their lines except me. They led me into his bedroom. He looked so small, frail, pale. Nothing like the man who once towered over me with a belt in his hand. Tubes ran into his arms. His voice was raspy, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. Son, he whispered. Thank you for coming. I froze that word. Son, I hadn't heard him call me that in decades. We made small talk at first. He asked about my job, if I had a family. I don't, where I was living. The whole room was watching us, waiting for something. Finally, he cleared his throat and said the words I think everyone was waiting for. I want to ask your forgiveness. For everything, I wasn't the father you needed. But I found God, and I know I'm forgiven there. I just want to be forgiven by you too. The air in the room shifted. People leaned in, waiting. Sharon clasped her hands together like she was watching some Hallmark movie moment. My half-siblings were teary-eyed. It was clear they all expected this beautiful reconciliation. The prodigal son returning, the father asking forgiveness, the son granting it, everyone hugging as inspirational music swells, but I couldn't. I thought about 15-year-old me, stuffing clothes in a backpack, running down the street because I couldn't stand one more night of being told I was worthless. I thought about Sharon calling me a curse. I thought about the silence every time I begged for mercy and got none. I thought about the decades of gaslighting, of being erased from their perfect Christian family picture. And I realized, no, I wasn't going to give them their movie ending. So I leaned down, kissed him on the forehead, and said quietly but clearly, no, but I'll see you in hell. Then I stood up and walked out. You could hear a pin drop behind me. Nobody followed me to the door. Nobody said a word, just stunned silence now. The fallout. Half my extended family is furious. I've gotten texts calling me cruel, heartless, vindictive. Some say I denied a dying man peace, that I should have been the bigger person, and granted forgiveness, even if I didn't mean it, just to give him comfort in his final days. But here's the thing. Where were all these people when I was begging for comfort as a kid? Where were they when I tried to tell them what was happening in that house and they looked the other way? Where were they when I was bruised, broken, and desperate for someone to believe me? Nobody gave me that peace. Nobody comforted me. And now, I'm supposed to erase decades of abuse with one word. Forgiven. Just because he's dying? I don't know. Part of me feels conflicted. I didn't walk in planning to say what I said. It just came out. Maybe it was anger bubbling up. Maybe it was honesty. But I know I couldn't fake forgiveness. Not after everything. The rest of the family can rewrite history all they want. I lived it. And I walked away with the only closure I could give myself. Comments. Commenter 1. Fuck 'em NTAU. Dad didn't care about you even at the end there. He didn't want to do anything to try to make things right with you. He wanted free and easy absolution for his shitty behavior. It why he waited till the end to ask for forgiveness. To guilt youths. Why he made sure you were surrounded by family. To pressure you? You may have skipped past it. But did he actually apologize? Or did he just jump straight to asking for forgiveness? Reply, yay, you're probably right. He never, not once in all those years, owned up to any of his behavior, which always drove me crazy. It's also crazy too because I absolutely remember what he was like. Crystal clear before he met his new wife and became born again Christian. He was a sweet man, very gentle, loving and emotionally intelligent. He used to write poetry and we'd listen to music together and bond on a real level. He became a wildly different man after he remarried, and I became a punching bag. It breaks my heart to this day. Reply commenter 1. I'm sorry for your loss. Not the loss of the man who recently died, but the loss of the father he used to be. Reply, yeah, that was always hard. It's really traumatizing experience to see someone you really care about change so rapidly in a scary way. There's a level of betrayal you feel that is really unlike anything else. Commenter 3. Ask the family why he should be forgiven when he never admitted to his transgressions. The first step to forgiveness is admitting to what you did wrong. He is unable to be forgiven if he has yet to admit to everything. Commenter 4. Similar situation. My sperm donor was extremely abusive. I was begged to go and see him before he died. The last time I had seen him before, this was to testify against him in court. He looked at me and whispered, I'm sorry. My response was, fuck you, and I have no regrets over 20 years later. Stories. Number 11. Aita, for telling my sister her boundary, will destroy her relationship with her nephew. I 30th recently got married and had a baby. My sister 24 does not like my husband and will not tell me why. When I first brought him home to introduce everyone, she was a bit standoffish, but in general she doesn't really like people, very few friends, never brings anyone home to meet the family, and has never wanted to spend time with anyone I brought home. Before my husband and I got married, I asked her if she had any issues with him. She said no, and that he seemed nice. I asked her to be my maid of honor, and thought all was well. Fast forward to last week. My husband goes to drop off something at the family home. Sister lives with my parents and came back looking shaken. I asked him what happened, and he said he knocked and went into the kitchen, and my sister told him my parents weren't home. He said he tried to give her the stuff I had asked him to drop off, and she told him to put it in the garage. It was food, even though they were in the kitchen. He said as he was picking the stuff back up to go. He tried making small talk, commenting about the weather, and she snapped at him, saying, Don't terrorize out and talk to her, and stormed out of the room. My husband has never given me reason to worry about him being inappropriate or anything. But that was where my mind first went. Live near them. And he had been gone for less than 5 minutes. I called my sister to ask what happened, and she hung up on me. Messaged her, and she ignored me until this morning when I bombarded her phone with messages because I wanted to resolve whatever was going on. She finally replied and basically said she hates him, has always hated him, and her only boundary is that he never talks to her. In the 7 years we have been together, they've spoken maybe 5 times, and that was mostly him greeting her. I asked her why, and she said she doesn't need a reason. She just doesn't like him, and doesn't want him around. I asked her point blank if he had done or said something to make her feel like that, and she said he didn't do anything, and that she doesn't need a reason to feel how she does. Now my family is very close, my other sibling brother 29. And I sometimes dropped by unannounced to help my mom cook dinner, or just hang out. My parents encourage this, as they say they like having us around. I told her it's going to be weird if he can't even just greet her when we come over. She said she was sick of me having a stranger in her home. I told her I didn't realize she felt that way about him and said I wouldn't ask him to drop stuff without me being around anymore. Mind you, she's had 7 years to get to know him, and I didn't realize she still considered him a stranger. She then said that that was not the point, that she didn't want him talking to her at all, and that was the boundary she wanted, respected. I told her that I would tell him and try to keep them apart. But that would mean her time with my son. Her nephew's 6 months would be affected because my husband will not be comfortable with our son being around someone who hates him. Frankly, I'm now uncomfortable with it too, because I don't know what ideas she will try to put in his head. It's also going to affect my parents' time with him because if my husband can't bring him around, it's going to affect the amount of times he goes over there. I didn't tell her, but that hurts my heart because they absolutely adore my son. He's their first and only grandchild so far, and they love spending time with him, always telling us to bring him over. She said I was playing the victim, painting her as a itch, and trying to trample the only boundary that she has set for herself. I'm currently thoroughly lost and trying to figure out the best way forward. Aita here, and is there any way I can fix this situation? Edit. I never expected so many replies in such a short time, but I appreciate the responses. To clarify a few things and answer some questions. I've mentioned it to my parents and they're aware of what happened. My mom said she'll sit my sister down for a conversation, but from what I hear, my sister keeps making reasons to avoid it, busy, tired, wanting more time, etc. My dad says not to worry about it, and it will blow over. My dad had a heart attack recently and is currently recovering, so I don't want to push it with them right now and stress him out, so I left it at that with him and changed the subject. My partner is amazing and has never given me reason to worry about him being around any females. I admit I was worried he had done something when he told me how she responded, because I can't wrap my brain around why she would blow up over just small talk. But she herself said he didn't do anything. I know my brother has had partners, but he hasn't brought any home. I myself didn't bring anyone home until I was serious about them and thought there might be a future. Brought home a grand total of 2 guys, current partner and my ex from college. Regarding her mental health, she has always had a bad temper, has snapped at me many times with no apology, even when she realized later she was wrong. Egg accused me of taking her shoes, which she had actually just left in the vehicle. There has never been anything on this level before. Top comments. Commenter. 1. This is very weird. You should speak with your mom and other brother, see if sister has disclosed reasoning, or if she has otherwise been paranoid. Commenter. 2. It reads like jealousy to me, tbh. Maybe she feels he's taking her away from the family. But if he's done nothing to her, and she won't give a reason, if I were up, I'd go low or no contact with the sister family events, baby showers, parties, etc. Everyone would be invited. Except for her. You don't want to talk to my husband and we can't resolve this? Fine lol, you're on your own. I don't entertain childishness like this. Commenter 3. Can someone make a bot for what a boundary really is? She can make a boundary that she doesn't have to talk to him, or that she will leave when he comes over, but not that he can't talk to her. And since it's not her house, I don't think she can make a boundary that he can't come over either. A boundary is an action you take, not an action you impose on others. For example, a healthy expression of a boundary, healthy in quotes, because she needs help, is, if he comes over, I will go to my room. If he talks to me, I will leave and go for a walk. Commenter 4. Thank you. This isn't a boundary but a control tactic. She's trying to undermine OP's relationship and cast aspersions. Unless there's something OP isn't telling us, NTA's sister is behaving really weirdly and comes across as bitter and divisive. Update. I'm blown away by the number of responses. I'm trying to read them all, but replying to all is a bit difficult, due to the volume. I appreciate all the responses though, it gives me perspective. To clarify, the only reason I consider my husband might have done something is because I'm in healthcare, in an environment where all sides of all stories have to be looked at. My first instinct was that she was being out of line for no reason, but I always try to look at both sides, and was trying to figure out why she said what she did. Both he and her said that he didn't do anything, and I'm going with that. Growing up, my brother was the golden child. Dad only wanted a son, and kept talking about his son and his legacy. My dad has evolved over the years. He doesn't do that anymore, and makes all his children a priority now. My dad, when I was 10, is a different man to the one I have now. And my sister was my mom's favorite. She would always say that to us. I never wanted to be the calm princess my mom wanted. I wanted to make my dad happy and be as boy-like as possible and refuse to wear the dresses, etc. She wanted me to. That relationship has also evolved. My mom and I are on much better terms now than when I was a kid. I was the oddball, and my siblings and I weren't really close until everyone was past 14 or 15. Then we started finding shared interests, etc. My husband was beyond happy to marry into my family. My parents treat him like their own son. And he has said many times they feel more like family than his own family. He has 3 brothers, but he's the youngest by 10 years and felt left out a lot. He once told me he was excited to have a sister-in-law, as he has none of his own and isn't close with his brothers. So this whole thing has him down. And I feel horrible for even considering he had done anything inappropriate when I knew deep down he hadn't. I was just trying to figure out what was going on. My sister told my dad she will sit down with us to talk about it this afternoon when I get off work, so waiting to hear what she says in his presence. We'll update again after we talk. Update 2. Spoke with my dad and sister a couple hours ago. Basically, my dad asked both of us what happened. I gave my side and she gave her side. My dad asked her if she was sure she had no reason to do that. She said she had a reason, but she didn't want to say. My dad said, well, that we won't force anyone to share anything. She then says, okay, she'll tell us why. She said when she first met my husband, he asked her about a guy. Let's call him Mr. L. She said he asked her how Mr. L was doing. Then she turns to me and goes, yeah, I know you read my diary. The guy I had a crush on and wrote all my private thoughts about. The first day your husband met me, he asked me, and that told me everything I needed to know about him. I'm still flabbergasted that she would say that because, first of all, I didn't know she had a diary. And even if I did know, I would never have read it. I had a journal once, and my cousin read it, teased me mercilessly. I would never wish that upon someone else. I was surprised at first, then I got pissed because I realized she was making stuff up. At that point, she met my husband 6 years ago. We had been dating a year before. I introduced him to the family. 2 years ago, my sister went abroad for a year. College-related, a friend of mine who started school late and was in the same program as her was on the same trip. I recognized the name as the hot professor. My friend came back gushing about. I asked my sister if that was the professor that worked at the university. And she went, yes, you see. Is that your confession? I asked her how my husband asked her 6 years ago about someone she only met 2 years ago. She stopped talking for a good minute, like her brain was buffering. Then she snapped at me that I just didn't understand how hard it was for her to keep having a stranger in her home, and stormed off. My son is going to grow up without getting to know the only auntie that he has, but I cannot fix a situation that she is making up. Growing up, I was not an awesome sibling. There were petty arguments, stupid fights over stuff like the TV remote, what to have for dinner, etc., but I thought we had a better relationship the last few years. We were sending each other memes, cracking jokes, took a few trips together, dinners, lunches. She was my maid of honor at my wedding and visited me in the hospital every day. I was their emergency C-section with complications. I was there for a week and checked on me every day, postpartum, for the first couple months. I'm still hoping this can somehow be fixed, but if she's making up lies and unwilling to communicate, I don't see what I can do at it. I asked my husband about it. He doesn't remember asking her anything about any guy. He doesn't recognize that name at all. My husband and sister never dated since so many people are asking. Yes, I know for a fact. The areas he went to school and work are far from where we are. And the way we were raised, we didn't go out much. Yes, my husband is a different race from us, but I would like to think my sister isn't racist. We are Asian. He's black at it, to add. I see a lot of people calling her racist, and to add to an already long post, I didn't think it was that, because my ex was Asian, and she didn't seem to like him. But we were only together 6 more months after I introduced him to the family, so they didn't interact anymore. My family at its core is Asian, starting with my grandparents. But over the years there has been a lot of mixing, a lot of mixed cousins, etc. And she gets along with my cousin, half black, half Asian, and his wife, who is black. Regarding the mental health, I've brought up her anger issues in the past and she doesn't want to try any type of therapy or evaluation. She's a grown woman, and as long as she isn't a direct threat to herself or exhibiting violence to others, it is completely her choice. People are mad that I used the word female odd thing to be mad about. I use the words male and female on a regular basis. Never known it to be an issue. Small update. To everyone saying she needs therapy, etc. I have suggested it to her in the past because she has some anger issues, but she always says no, and you cannot force someone to go to therapy. It has to be their own choice. I spoke to my dad again this morning. He said he tried talking to her again, but she's avoiding the topic. I told him don't worry about it, and that he and my mom are welcome at my place, but I wouldn't be coming around as often to a place where I have safety concerns for my son and husband. Dad said he understands. My mom is a bit pissed about the whole situation, mostly about what my sister did, and backs my stance. My mom told me she asked her how she would feel. If someone was treating my brother the same way she was treating my husband, and she threw a fit saying my mom was seriously trying to guilt her, which I take to mean she knows she was out of line, because why would you feel guilty if you hadn't done anything wrong? For those saying I need to tell my parents kick her out, that is not an option. She just finished college and is looking for a job. She can't afford to move out even if she wanted to. We might be at odds now, but keep in mind this is my only sister. We were not the closest, but usually were there for each other in the past. Mad as I might be at her, I don't want to see her homeless. To the people mad about the whole race thing, I have 27 aunts and uncles. Yes, my grandparents were busy. My family is well and truly mixed. There's black, white, Hispanic, more Asian, Filipino. If you can think of the race, it's probably mixed into my family. That's why I said I didn't think it was because of his race. She seems to hate most equally. She and my brother don't always get along, but she's being extra nice to him. He told me she told him that he's the only one on her side, and everyone is against her. However, he has made it clear that he is not taking sides. He is not going to change how he interacts with anyone, and is speaking to both of us. That's completely fine by me. He's her brother, and isolation probably won't help her in any way. Commenter. Just heard your story on YouTube with fake updates, that your parents are taking her side, and you are going there without your husband because they pressure you. Just in case it goes anywhere near this, don't stand by your husband. You do not need toxic family members. She is your only sister, but many people live their lives without ever having a sister. Your nuclear family is your husband and child now. To follow your thought process, you only have one husband. And by the way, she's probably into your husband. Reply. That's hilarious. Can you send me the link or the channel name so I can take a look? The actual situation is not near that. My parents are trying to avoid taking sides, but both agree she's not making any sense and have acknowledged she has anger issues, but without her being willing to go to therapy, they can't force her. We will be staying far away from her, but all other family is welcome at my place. Stories. Number 12. A teacher who was very cruel to me as a child reached out to me. Should I tell her how I feel? I recently got a friend request from my 5th grade parents teacher. I am 30 now. She sent me some happy message with excitement and hugs, and it's left me very confused. This woman was an absolute monster. To me, when I was in her class, she would go out of her way to humiliate me or punish me for things that I had nothing to do with. During this time, my mother was getting treated for cancer and had to get surgery. My father fell back into alcoholism, and my parents' marriage was falling apart. Every day I dreaded going to class. Literally have panic attacks. She would single me out and look for things to put me down for. I'd never screamed at a teacher in my life, but I lost it on her when I had to leave early to go to the hospital for my mom, and walked in to get my things during break, which she didn't allow. She immediately screamed at me, started writing up a detention slip, kept screaming, and I snapped and lost it. She kept yelling at me and putting me down even after I explained I was going to the hospital. Or when I was having anxiety over having a tooth pulled, and when my dad came to pick me up, she jokingly, menacingly yelled, "They're going to rip all Your teeth out. And that's just some of the things she did. She was literally the reason I told my parents that I refused to ever go to a Christian or religiously based school again, and it was living hell for the year I had her. Now she thinks we're friends? I don't want to attack her, but I am tempted to at least confront her on it, say I forgive her, and move on. Shouldn't an asshole be held accountable? Or is there a statute of limitations over childhood trauma? Relevant comments. Commenter. 1. We live in a world where a private email can turn into your publicity disaster. Flatly tell her to never contact you again. That's all. Or better yet, ignore her. Don't go full man-child like the rest of the Redditors are suggesting. You're 30 years old now. You should have priorities that transcend some shitty teacher experiences we've all had. Reply. I know what you are saying is the appropriate route to take, but my father was just cremated yesterday on my birthday of all days. And then this bitch decides to pop up in my life and pretend to care. I so don't want to be a man-child, but she nearly brought me to suicide and I barely even understood what that was at the time. She was the worst bully of them all. People like this are fucking bullshit. And I'm probably just oversensitive and fucked up right now because of the whole dad thing, but I never got any closure from my father either, and I feel like she should know that her actions really hurt someone I don't know. I'm just exhausted and done. Commenter. 2. Obviously this woman tormented the hell out of you, so the last thing you need is to let her back into your life. I would simply respond with, "Fode fuck off and die." Then block her. Reply, I was planning on blocking her after giving her some truth. She just sent a long message about how she's been tracking me down for a long time, and how blessed she is that she finally found, and hopes I'm doing great, and can't wait to reconnect with me. I'm so confused. And my blood is boiling. Commenter. 2. Honestly, if you would benefit from it, by bringing you some kind of closure or retaking of power you didn't have as a child, fucking do it. But if you would feel guilty afterwards or have nothing to gain, then just block and move on. I would want to tell her how monstrously she treated me, but I would feel guilty about it because I'm fucked in the head. So I'd just ignore it and move on with my life. Commenter. 3. She sounds messed up. Tell her what she did to you. After that, don't keep in touch with her. Commenter. 4. Piggybacking on this to say, don't let her gaslight you or walk on your feelings either. OP. The things you're about to tell her will make her hostile most likely. Be prepared for her to be horrible again. Commenter. 5. Honestly, she's just doing it because she probably feels guilty for doing what she did. Drop her. She doesn't deserve any sympathy for what she did. If you went to a religious school, she's probably in that phase where, oh shit, I'm going to die soon, I might as well repent. Don't give her that satisfaction. Tell her the shit that she's done to you, wait for a reply or 2, then block her. Edit. I say wait for a reply or 2 because I weirdly love hearing people make that last plea. It's so satisfying to hear them wanting to keep arguing with you or show their true colors before you finally say, betch bye. Commenter. 6. Don't even let her respond, say your piece, tell her to not bother responding, and then block her instantly. Not having the final say, or any say, is crushing to a lot of people. Update. In regards to the awful teacher who messaged me, I responded. So wow, firstly, I wasn't expecting such an overwhelming amount of messages and responses. I've been trying to catch up with all of them, but today was 4/20, and I work at a cannabis dispensary, so I wasn't able to update earlier, but what I have read so far has helped me better weigh the pros and cons of responding, and the support from you guys is really comforting and has helped me feel not quite as alone. I was fuming last night, as I'm already dealing with a lot, and her message took me there, so I held off until I could process it a bit more and not take the low road and get vicious. She absolutely deserves for me to, and it'd definitely make me feel empowered. But I know that would quickly fade into wasn't worth it territory. I was civil, but I called her out on it. I've decided to post screenshots, not to exploit this, but maybe you guys can perceive this differently. I feel like it's not really an apology, and the whole her representing Jesus poorly thing and turning it into something about religion is a cop-out. She doesn't even take responsibility, especially in how she says, if I was a bad representation of Jesus, which it sounds like it is. The understatement of the year, I did this on my 1 10-minute break, And man, could I have said more, and part of me wants to, but I probably shouldn't let this escalate. Also, her being the mayor just blows my mind. Of course she is. I probably could have done so much better screenshots of the conversation, teacher. Here I am. I've looked for you a few times, but was successful this time. Crazy times we are living in now, but all is well, and I hope this finds you at peace. And healthy. If I could just get a good deep cleaning done on my house, I would be thrilled. Garden is in, so I am off to clean today. Blessings to you, honey. So good to connect. Let's visit more later, me. I'm not exactly sure how to say this. I don't wish you any ill will towards you, but I also have no desire to reconnect with you. You treated me horribly when I was your student, singling me out and frankly bullying me at times. You said very hurtful things to me that no teacher has ever said. Not only would I have panic attacks before your class every day, but my dad was falling back into alcoholism. My mom was in the hospital for cancer, and I was trying to hold my family together as a child. And then for some reason you singled me out and made me feel like less of a person. Compared to my peers, I never went to another Christian school again because I was sick of it, and you really just hurt me a lot. Again, I'm not attacking you and I forgive you, but I don't see any point in reconciliation or reconnecting. But I wish you the best and hope you are well, me. My father passed away last week, and frankly, you just remind me of one of the darkest times in my life, and I don't need those memories right now. I'm moving forward. God bless, teacher. Gosh, Jacob. I am so sorry. I have fond memories of you, but no specifics. I thank you so much for being open and transparent with me. I thank you for your forgiveness and wish you nothing but the best, and pray for an abundance of grace all over you. If I was a bad representation of Jesus in your life, which it sounds like it, I only remind you that I am flesh, and please look to Jesus instead. And I am so sorry to hear about your father. I lost mine a year and a half ago. Blessings to you, Jacob, and thank you again for your transparency, and my apologies from the depths of my heart. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. So I came across your post earlier just on random scrolling, and it's good to see that you went through with a reply. Sorry if her reply wasn't what you were looking for. I feel like people who respond in an overly religious way to criticisms are using it as a crutch to get out of guilt. If you decide to reply, and if I was in your position, I would be polite, as you were earlier, but let her know that she should work harder at upholding her values, and that as an adult and as an educator, she is supposed to be someone that children trust and look up to. Reply. She no longer teaches. She is the mayor of her city, and it's definitely a crutch. Commenter 2. Sorry, man. That being said, she's a leader now. She should be even more accountable. But as a politician, she's definitely never going to admit wrongdoing in text. Commenter 3. Actually, you handled that really well. Facts only, straight to the point, polite and calm, sad to say or not. Her response was the opposite, flailing about and refusing to account for her actions by claiming she's flesh. Okay then, I really dislike how she's turned your points and frustrations back on her to try to make out that she's the victim as well. When you said your dad passed and she said she's lost hers too, nobody cares. Geez, me anyway. Well done. You should be proud of yourself on how you handled this cringe bucket of an individual. Stories number 13. My mother-in-law wants me to follow tradition at my wedding, but I chose myself instead. My wedding is this weekend, and if I'm being honest, I thought the biggest stress would be the usual stuff. Seating charts, catering hiccups, family politics. I didn't expect that one of the most emotional battles would be over. How I enter the ceremony. I'm 29, and my fiancé, Daniel, is 31. We've been together for nearly a decade, and living together for 5 of those years. At this point, marriage feels like a celebration of what we've already built, not the start of something brand new. That's why I wasn't thrilled about some of the old-school traditions, particularly the father walking the bride down the aisle. Part to give context. My parents divorced when I was little. My mom raised me, and my dad was basically a ghost until I turned 23. He popped back in sporadically, and while I don't hate him, we aren't close. The idea of him walking me down the aisle feels hollow, almost like play acting. I also have a strong aversion to the symbolism, a man giving away his daughter to another man. That's not me, so a few months ago, I floated the idea to Daniel. What if we do a private first look together before the ceremony, then walk in side by side? To me, it felt right. We're equals, entering marriage together as partners. Daniel said, "That's not a bad idea," and we left it there. To me, that was a green light. We even discussed arrival logistics, how we'd get to the venue, what music would play. It all felt settled. Fast forward to this week. While chatting with friends, I casually mentioned that Daniel and I would be walking in together. Everyone thought it was sweet. Later, when it was just us, Daniel asked, "Wait, when did we decide that for sure?" I was surprised. I explained that since he agreed to the first look, I assumed that meant we'd also do the aisle walk together. He looked uneasy and said, "I just haven't told my mom yet." And here's the heart of the issue. His mom, Linda, is devoutly religious. Very different faith than either of us. And she's had a habit of inserting herself into our wedding planning since day one. I'll give examples. She suggested we hold the ceremony in her church, despite neither of us attending. She pushed for us to include a long prayer she picked out. She wanted us to choose hymns over the acoustic songs we actually like. At first, it was framed as advice, but it always came across more like orders. And we've been polite but firm in saying, "Thank you, but we're doing it our way." The key detail: we are paying for our entire wedding ourselves. No parental contributions. Not a dime. We budgeted carefully, saved for years, and it's ours. So when Daniel admitted he was worried about how Linda would react to the aisle thing, I felt my stomach drop. I asked, "Why should your mom's feelings matter more than mine? This is our wedding. We're already funding everything ourselves. Why would we cater to her over what feels meaningful to me?" Daniel didn't say she mattered more, but he said he didn't want to cause a scene or make her feel left out. He's the oldest child, and Linda dotes on him. He's always been the peacekeeper in his family, the one who smooths things over. I get it. But it felt like a slap in the face because here's the truth. This isn't about Linda being left out. She's not the one getting married. She's not walking down the aisle. She's not the bride. I told Daniel, "I need you to prioritize me here, not your mom. Me, your partner, the person you're marrying. If we start this marriage by compromising because your mom might pout, that sets the wrong precedent." We went back and forth. He argued that maybe we could split the difference, like me walking halfway alone, then him joining me or letting someone else walk me part way. But that felt like twisting myself into knots to appease Linda, not something that represented us. The more I thought about it, the more it hit me. Women are always told to compromise, to accommodate family feelings, to make nice even when it hurts. And I've done that my whole life. This time, I want to stand firm. So I told him plainly, "I'm walking in with you. That's what feels right to me. If your mom doesn't like it, she can deal." He wasn't thrilled, but he didn't argue further. He just looked resigned. Now I'm getting a little nervous about the fallout. Linda already made a passive-aggressive comment when she saw the final program draft. "Oh, so no one's walking you down the aisle? Interesting choice." You could hear the judgment dripping. I just smiled and said, "Yep, Daniel and I are walking in together." She pursed her lips and changed the subject, but I know this isn't the last of it. I fully expect whispers, maybe even tears, on the wedding day. I keep asking myself, am I being selfish? Should I just let Daniel walk in first and have me escorted to him, just to avoid drama? Or is it okay to prioritize what I want in this one big moment, even if it upsets his mom, because in my heart, I know the answer. This is my wedding too. I don't want to feel like a guest star in a performance for other people's approval. I want to walk in hand with the man I chose, not be given away. And if Linda can't accept that, that's her problem, not mine. Comments. Commenter 1. You are NTA, but what your MIL wants and what the two of decide together is what matters. Does he ask for her advice on a lot of his life choices? If so, that's a big red flag, but if not, then it doesn't matter. Congrats and good luck. Commenter 2. NTA. You need to have a talk with your groom. Your feelings are no 1 here. Mom is now no 2. It doesn't mean that you will never take her feelings into account. It just means that you two are team. Her religion has nothing to do with your wedding. Commenter 3 NTA. I guess it's time to give your fiancé a hard look. Right now he is prioritizing his mother's feelings over yours, and on your wedding day no less. Time to ask your fiancé who matters most, you or his mother. Who is he going to respect the most? From what I learned in this subreddit, marrying someone who loves his mother is okay. But stay away from mama's boys that prioritize their mothers over everyone else, including their wives and children. Commenter 4. Are you sure he's actually prioritizing his mom's feelings and not his own? Is he using his mom as an scapegoat, but he's truly the one who wants a more traditional entrance? Reply, maybe, but I feel like he should have told me this when we were first talking about walking down the aisle together. I feel misled because he never mentioned that he really wants it. The traditional way. Stories number 14. ATA for not accepting my mom's wife as a parent and telling her to accept it. And move on. I, 16F, have two moms, mom bio and mama non-bio. Mama died 6 years ago and mom remarried 3 years ago. I have a brother who's 20 and doesn't live with us anymore. When mom started dating her wife, she told me and my brother about her and seemed okay with us not wanting another mom. But ever since her wife moved in with us, the expectation is there for me to be close and let her fill in as another parent. She has tried with me way more than she's tried with my brother, and he's older, so I get it, but it pisses me off. She said she's not trying to replace mama but just to fill in where she can't be. I told her I don't want her filling in, and she was like, but think about the future, because she doesn't want to always be the outsider, and just the wife. Mom told me having 3 parents could be a great blessing and having 2 living moms again would be helpful for me. Mom put me into therapy, and the 2 of us started family sessions 7 months ago. Mom said she doesn't understand why we're so resistant to having another motherly figure around. She said mama would be happy for us to have someone who loves us, and she knows she wouldn't want her to be alone forever. I said I don't want her to be sad or lonely either, but why does her getting married again make her wife anything to me? I asked her if she was planning to treat my future spouse the same as she treats me and my brother, and she said no, and I said exactly. But then she said it's different. When school started back up, my mom's wife signed us up for these cooking classes for parents and their kids. She thought it would be a cool way for the 2 of us to bond, but I refused to go with her. She tried to convince me, but I told her I wasn't doing parent-child classes with her no matter what they are. She told me she didn't see the bad in what she did, and I could have tried. I told her she needs to get over the fact she's never going to be my parent, and she doesn't fill mama's shoes. At that point she was like, I'm so tired of trying to be a parent to you guys, and being rejected. And I told her to accept that she's not, and move on because we don't have to accept her like that, and it would be easier to accept her being here if she was just fine being mom's wife. She told me that wasn't fair to ask her to do because in 20 years' time when me and my brother have kids, she doesn't want to be nothing to the grandkids that come along, and she doesn't want to be treated as less than equal when she's there with mom. I told her it wasn't my problem, and mom's wife stormed out of the house. And then I heard mom tell her that they should go to marriage counseling, and her wife was blaming me for them needing to go and complaining that I told her to accept things. Comments. Commenter 1. I think the real issue is that your mom isn't respecting that you grieve and connect differently than she does for her. Remarrying filled a void. But for you, that void can't just be replaced. Therapy might help if everyone is open to listening instead of trying to fix you. You're not wrong for saying you don't want another parent. Reply, I hope therapy can help me and mom, but I also hope she lets it stay for just us, and we can work on keeping our relationship no matter what. Commenter 2, NTA. These things need to happen organically. You can't just decide that now your stepchildren need to consider you their mom if it'll happen. It'll happen naturally, spontaneously, organically, with time. Who knows? Maybe if they hadn't forced the issue, you would have naturally developed a close relationship with your mom's wife. Your mom and her wife aren't showing you respect, especially considering that you are 16, not 5. I'll reply, I think I could have developed a relationship with her if she was fine just being my mom's wife. But if she secretly wanted more, then I think we would have always come back to this, because it just isn't fair to expect you can walk in and be a parent like that. Even if you're willing to try, being a parent isn't something you can demand from kids who already had two and lost one. I hope my mom comes around because our relationship has always been pretty good, even during rough patches. But it won't be for long if this keeps getting worse. Commenter 3. This is a conversation that should have taken place before they got married. You can't force a relationship when you marry someone. I'm a step-parent. He was 15 when I married his dad. I made myself available to him without any expectations and let him guide the relationship as he felt comfortable. He calls me by my name, and that's cool. His son calls me Nanny, which fills my heart. The point is, if she just let things progress organically, you may very well have come to see her as a trusted adult in your life. Your mom isn't helping. She has gone about this all wrong. They need to listen to you and your brother, or they will push you away completely. Commenter 4. NTA. My 38F dad, 70 Meners, married his husband, 55 Fliners, 8 years ago. They've been together since my parents' divorce, 18 years ago. I do not have two dads, but my children, 4 and 6 Mo, do have 3 grandfathers. If the grandkid thing is seriously part of her concern, the one doesn't require the other. It's way easier to welcome an extra grandparent than it is to accept an unwanted parent. I wanted Granddad C to be granddad to my kids because we have a great relationship now. That only happened because he was so chill about just being friends and not trying to be more when I was still sorting through the baggage from my parents' divorce. Your mom's wife is screwing her chances of any future relationship with you by forcing the relationship she wants. Now I hope it all comes out in therapy so your mom can have your back. Stories number 15. I can't transfer to another class? Okay, band director. I'll stay in your band. I grew up as an army brat. So I did a lot of moving in my childhood. I had been at my current school for 4 years, starting in 8th grade. Up until then, it was the longest I'd ever been in one place. I would be moving across an ocean. For my senior year of high school, I was going to miss the friends I'd made. But as an army brat, this wasn't anything new. Frankly, I was looking forward to a change of scenery. I was a member of the high school band through my sophomore year. We had a wonderful band director who was the kind of teacher everyone dreams of. Helpful, friendly, supportive, encouraging, and a little bit of a hard ass when needed. However, she left us, and her replacement was nothing short of horrible. He was mean, rude, short-tempered, and authoritarian. One spring day, nearing the end of my junior year, I needed to go to a dental appointment to fix a cavity. Given that we were about to move thousands of miles away, we just took the first appointment we could get, and that happened to be an early afternoon that would require me to miss a single day of band class. So I go to the band director, inform him that I'm going to miss class this afternoon for a dental appointment. Then I check out of school, go to the dentist, get my tooth filled, go home, and carry on with the rest of my life because this is a regular, routine, normal, and not at all unusual event that is hardly worth even noticing, let alone causing drama, right? Of course not. I come to school the following day, and a bunch of my bandmates come up to me at morning break. Hey OP, did you hear about Mr. B yesterday? They all inquire, no, what happened? I reply, I get a story about how Mr. B decides to take the opportunity of my absence to lecture the entire band about how dedication is so important. Everyone really needs to be a team player. We don't need selfish members in this band who schedule appointments during band class. I mean, he really lays into it. Apparently arms waving, voice rising, he works himself into a full tirade against selfish band members who don't show up to class for trifling things, like medical appointments. While the band was somewhat large, probably 80 students, everyone in the room knew exactly who he was referring to, as I'm conspicuously not in my chair that day. Hence the cluster of bandmates asking me if I'd heard about this. So here's the thing. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an army brat, through to this day I still say, yes sir or no ma'am, when talking to my elders, superiors. I know rules and order, and I know my part in the system. I was not rebellious. I had a 39 GPA, good manners, and never put a toe out of line. But I also have a very large sense of justice, and this was bullshit. So I marched myself right to the band director and said, Mr. B, I hear you gave a good lecture about not needing people who aren't dedicated in the band, and how scheduling appointments during band class is not showing dedication. So effective immediately. I am no longer in your band. I'll find another class to finish out the year. You should have seen the veins on his forehead. I swear the man nearly stroked out. I've never seen anyone angrier. He starts to yell at me, but this isn't my class time. I don't have to be there, so I turn around to walk out. The man literally moves to block my way, yelling about how I decide if you're in here or not. You can't leave this class without my permission. I'm the one in charge here. We'll see about that. I just walk around him and go about my day. Since this is between class free time, I don't have to stand there and discuss it with him. I go to Coach N, another one of those awesome teachers everyone loves, and tell him about my situation. Coach N happens to teach an art history class, the same period as the band class. I ask Coach N if he wouldn't mind if I finished out the year in his class. He did encourage me to try and work it out if I could, but I made it pretty clear to him that I didn't respect Mr. B. I wasn't going to be treated like that, and this was just the last straw in a year-long display of his petty, mean, authoritarian nonsense. Since Coach N and I get along great, he gladly agrees to let me join his art class. So I go on down to the principal's office and tell the principal that I'm not going to finish out the year in band, but that Coach N is willing to let me finish the year in his class. The principal tells me, "We're going to have to discuss this with Mr. B, and your parents. I'll set up a meeting." Great, as soon as possible, please. So last period of the day comes, and I go to Coach N's class about 5 minutes into some slideshow about Coach N's trip to Rome last year, and I'm fetched out of the class and told that I haven't been allowed to switch yet, and I must go to my band class. Cue the malicious compliance. "I can't leave without your permission, Mr. B." "Okay, I'll stay in your band." Now, what older, more vindictive me thinks I should have done was just play the most ridiculous, off-note, out-of-tempo nonsense all class long. That would have been hilarious, but that's not what I did. Like I said, I was a rule follower. Playing wrong loudly never crossed my mind. Instead, what I did was go into band class, take my front row seat. I was first chair oboe, and sit with my hands folded in my lap for the entire 90 minutes. Staring at Mr. B, I don't take out my instrument, warm up, pull out sheet music, or interact with anyone the entire time. I just sit there, passive-aggressively displaying that while, "You can make me stay in your class? You can't make me play?" You'd think he'd get the hint and just relent, but that's not Mr. B's style. Instead, for 2 days while they set up the meeting with my mom, I have to sit in that class and openly defy him. But he's got a plan. He's going to threaten my grades and try to coerce my mom to make me support him. Thankfully, I've prepped Mom, and she's no fan of Mr. B, so that is going to go nowhere. So we finally go to the meeting, and when both sides have had their say, Mr. B smugly says, "If I don't let you out of my class, you have to stay. You'll get a failing grade." The principal takes his side, and also tried to cajole me into staying, trying to lean on the threat to my grades. "OP's mom. OP has such great grades. You wouldn't want those ruined, now would you?" Mom, like a boss, basically says, "I think OP is right. He doesn't want to stay in the class. Let's just find an alternative." Then I said to the principal, "You can make me stay if that's what you want to do." Then I turned to Mr. B and said, "I have a 39 GPA. I think I can afford one bad grade for 1 quarter in an art credit. I don't think that's going to ruin my future, so, again, you can make me stay, and you can give me a bad grade, but you can't make me play. Every day, in front of every member of that band, I will openly defy you. Do you really want that for the rest of the school year?" I still remember the look of defeat on his face. It was glorious. Coach N's class for the rest of the year was great fun. I learned a lot about art history and appreciation, which was something I hadn't really been exposed to before. Then I set off halfway across the world for an international high school adventure my senior year. In a way, I couldn't actually believe I pulled it off. I think it's the day I realized that I wasn't so different from adults. You could maybe even argue it was when I became an adult. So I guess I could thank Mr. B for that, but I won't. Commenter. One not the same at all, I know. But this reminds me of a time in high school that my dad took me into HS late one morning after a Dr. Aptaz he was checking me in. The attendance lady felt the need to tell my dad that in the future, My appointments needed to not be during second period, as that is when the school takes attendance that is submitted to the state for payment. My dad was a police officer that worked night shift. He proceeded to let her know, in no uncertain terms, that he could not care less if they got paid for my attendance. I was his child. He works nights, and he will schedule whatever he wants at times that work for him, not the school. Commenter 2. Some band teachers have such a huge ego. I had a bad one too who replaced a stellar one. Reply, it is rather remarkable how big his ego was. It was like, bro, you've been here as assistant director for like 2 years. Calm down. Reply commenter 2. Wow. The power went straight to his head, huh? My band went from symphonic to marching band, and this guy didn't want to do anything but competition and wanted us to behave like military cadets. But that's the thing, we were symphonic. We played alongside chorus and theater, and he made that change. My band director would not address the bullying that was happening to me. I had 2 girls behind me who would throw full water bottles at me and jab their flutes into my head and lower back. His reasoning, you didn't earn a better seat. So rather than remove 2 disrupting students who didn't know A from F, after some drama and reluctance, the woodwind section decided to rearrange on their own so I would be out of line of fire. He was so mad, and the first and second chairs were, like, we can be heard no matter where we stand or sit. Same with the worst players. Also wild, he'd lose his shit over 1 notified absence. Reply. His reasoning, you didn't earn a better seat. This is the exact kind of petty shit Mr. B would have done. I'll never understand these types of people. Reply commenter 2. Same, my sibling is now a band director, and I asked them about their perspective as the conductor, and they said that some people make being the best player their whole identity. And if they can't play, they turn to teaching. Said those who enter teaching as their first choice are usually the better directors, and those who have teaching as a backup usually carry some ego. Also said that there's a slight difference between people who study conducting with the intent of being the conductor and director versus a player who is brought to the front out of necessity. And given the score. Stories number 17. My neighbor's kids treat my yard like their playground, and I finally told them to stop. I'm a 32-year-old woman, married, and I live in a suburban neighborhood in Indiana. It's one of those streets where most of the houses are older but well kept, with decent front yards and driveways. When my husband Mark and I bought our place 3 years ago, the yard was rough, patchy grass, weeds everywhere, no curb appeal. Last year I finally decided to do something about it. I spent weekends laying down grass seed, pulling weeds, planting flowers. I'm no master gardener, but I worked hard, and the yard actually started to look good. For the first time since we moved in, I felt proud pulling into the driveway. But here's the issue. My next-door neighbors, the Johnsons, have 3 kids. I'd guess they're around 6, 8, and 10, 2 boys and a girl. They're not bad kids in the throw rocks at windows kind of way, but they have 0 boundaries when it comes to my property. From the day we moved in, they were constantly in our yard, riding their bikes up and down our driveway like it was their personal racetrack, cutting across our lawn instead of using the sidewalk, leaving toys, wrappers, and random junk in the grass. A couple of times, I even found their scooters left right by our front steps. At first, I brushed it off. They're just kids, right? I figured maybe once they got used to us living here, it would settle down. But it didn't. This past spring, I had just planted new grass seed. I watered it carefully, roped off the area, really tried to give it a chance to grow. Within days, I saw little bike tire marks running right through it. The kids had cut across again. It was frustrating, but I bit my tongue. Then a few weeks ago, one of them knocked over one of my big planters. It didn't shatter, thankfully, but dirt spilled everywhere, and the poor flowers were bent and broken. And the kicker? They didn't even say anything. They just left it there for me to find. That was my breaking point. So I went next door and knocked on their door. Their mom, Jessica, answered. She's probably in her late 30s, very friendly when we first moved in, always chatting about the neighborhood and how the kids love having other families on the street. I told her, as politely as I could, that I've been putting a lot of effort into my yard, and it keeps getting damaged by her kids riding through it and leaving toys. I asked if she could please remind them not to play in our yard. The look she gave me could have curdled milk. She sighed and said, "They're just kids. Where else are they supposed to play?" I pointed out that they have their own backyard, which is fenced, and there's literally a park, with swings, slides, and a huge field 1 block away. She just frowned and said, "Well, kids don't think about stuff like that." The conversation ended awkwardly. She clearly thought I was being uptight since then. Things have shifted. Jessica barely acknowledges me when we pass each other. Sometimes I'll see her chatting with other neighbors, and I catch little side glances. I can only assume she's telling them how I'm the mean neighbor who hates kids. Meanwhile, the problem hasn't totally stopped. The kids still cut through sometimes, though not as often. I found more wrappers and toys in the yard. A few days ago, one of them left a juice box right next to my flower bed. Mark says I was completely reasonable. He reminded me that we're paying property taxes. It's our yard, and it's not unreasonable to expect respect. He even offered to put up a small fence or some shrubs as a boundary, but honestly, I feel like we shouldn't have to spend money just because our neighbors won't teach their kids basic respect. Still, I can't shake the nagging feeling I don't want to be that neighbor. The cranky one who's always yelling at kids to get off her lawn. I like kids in general. I just don't like my hard work being trampled on. So here I am, stuck in my head. Was I wrong to say something? Should I have just let it go because they're young? Or was I right to stand up for myself, even if it makes me the villain in the neighborhood gossip circle? Because right now it feels like no matter what I do, I lose. Comments. Commenter 1 NTA. If the mom is so worried about where they can play, she can take them to the park down the street. It's not your job to provide a playground. Reply, I wish she would just see it from my side. If it was reversed, I'd never let my kids run wild in someone else's yard. Commenter 2. NTA, destruction of property and littering are valid reasons to not want them there. They can play in their own yard. Commenter 3. Honestly, there's a fine line between being a kid hater and just wanting a little peace and quiet. You don't have to love every shriek at 7 a.m. on a Saturday to be a decent neighbor. Sometimes you just want to finish your coffee without feeling like you're living next to a daycare. Reply. Finally, someone who gets it. Kids are awesome, but those 7 a.m. shrieks? Yeah, not my favorite. Just trying to make it through my weekend mornings in one piece. Commenter 4. You don't hate kids. You dislike moronic parents who fail to monitor their children and teach them to respect the property of others. You were kind and respectful. She's chosen to double down as the trash in the neighborhood. Accord her the respect she's due. None, hopefully you mingle with the neighbors. They'll easily be able to see her for who she us most. People welcome a neighbor who cares for her property. Stories number 18. Aita. For not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day, I'm 987% sure that I am not the AH here. But I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be 1 late this summer. So this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both me and my husband. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I didn't need anything big or expensive. What I asked for is for husband to get up with the little guy and get him fed while I pumped and chilled breakfast in bed. Just toast, scrambled eggs and coffee, for us to take the little guy to the zoo for the first time. This was the main thing I was looking forward to. Go to my fav taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps, we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is Abiti 30 min away, so I had figured if we left as soon as he got up from his nap and ate, we'd have a couple hours at the zoo and worst case, he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mom and my Emil out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them. His mom on Saturday and my mom on Sunday. I also got them each a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day. As grandparents, I arranged everything and told my mom and Mael that we'd be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family, and sent them a group chat, which included husband, my dad and Fael, just to make sure everyone is on the same page. My Mael is very pushy and overbearing, so I didn't want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, Fael sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he just had delivered and said something like, "Gonna be a busy weekend," or something like that. Apparently he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a big yard with lots of flower beds. That night my MIL called my husband and asked him to come over first. thing in the morning to help his dad move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we weren't going to the zoo until after little guy's nap, that husband could go over and help for a couple hours and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said Phil was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all that by himself, and that it's not a big deal and should only take an hour or two. I told him his mom was doing this to try and get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them. But he kept saying it's not a big deal, saying his mom promised it would only take a couple hours, etc., etc. I think most people know what happened. Husband went over first thing, which means no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed the little guy. I was kind of pissed, but whatever. Spent time with the little guy then, when he went down for his morning nap. I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then when little guy woke up 2 hours later, I called husband to tell him I'd be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding the little guy. He told me it was taking longer than he expected, but that he'd hurry. Like an hour and a half later, husband called and said they weren't done, but he was getting ready to come home. It's 15-20 minute drive from Fael's house. At that point we'd missed the window to make it to zoo, so I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day, since he hadn't done a single thing I asked for. I don't think there was any doubt in his mind how pissed I was. A little later his mom called and said since we decided not to go to the zoo, that me and little guy should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was pretty pissy and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home and ordering a pizza and binging Netflix. When husband got home, he was all apologetic and asked how he could make it up. I was still pissed and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mom and dad BC me, and the little guy were going to go celebrate Father's Day with my mom and dad. Since Mother's Day, Mill has been texting and calling, but I've been keeping conversations short and just giving very bland generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do, but honestly I don't want to bother. I know it's just a day and we can celebrate any time, like we did with my mom and Mill, but it was my first ever Mother's Day, and it's not like I asked for anything expensive or difficult. The only difficult thing is, he's incapable of setting boundaries with his mom, and she's incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday he asked if I was still going to my parents', then said he'd like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I hadn't done anything for his dad, he might want to go see him, or something. We did both end up going to my parents and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day. My dad insisted on grilling because of course he did, but the weather ended up being nice, and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck playing with the little guy. I'm not sure what, if anything, my husband did for his dad. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day. I assume from his mom she did send me a snippy text saying it was her fault to spend the day with my family at the expense of husband's, but I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy, so it's only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we didn't acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I'm just matching his energy. I admit that I haven't done anything to de-escalate the drama, but I'm still just so hurt. He continues to prioritize his mom's feeling over our little family. This isn't the first time his mom has done crap like this, and I'm just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I'm doing better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries, but my husband is absolutely incapable of it. Update 1. This weekend, the husband and I sat down and talked about everything. I expressed to him how incredibly upset and disappointed I was at how both Mother's Day and Father's Day went down. I really wanted to recognize and celebrate my husband for FD, every bit as much as I hoped he would recognize and celebrate me for MD. He said he knew he shouldn't have gone to his parents on MD, but didn't know what to do since his mom was pressuring him and saying if his dad got hurt, it would be husband's fault. He admitted that he knew he messed up and has been terrified that I was going to ask for a divorce. Since he cut to the chase, I told him that if this is how our life is going to be, I don't want to stay married to him. I explained to him that I realized that while yes, I was upset about what happened on Mother's Day, that isn't what is making me feel this way. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. This kind of behavior from his mom has been happening since we before got engaged and has just escalated. This has been happening for years. As someone here suggested, I had listed all the times events that I could remember that she had overstepped or just completely ruined. For our freaking honeymoon, she called him twice a day, every morning to find out our plans for the day, and then every evening to hear how the day went. Plus the constant texting, asking for pictures, telling him how much she missed him. I don't know how I thought this was acceptable. She tried to make our wedding about herself, tried to make my pregnancy about herself, tried to take over when we brought our son home, just constantly inserting herself, and overstepping. I told him that I don't really want to get divorced right now, but it's going to happen anyway. I'd rather get divorced now while we can still do it amicably. Because if nothing changes, I'm going to end up so angry and resentful that it would make divorce very contentious, and I don't want that for our son. At this point we were both crying, upset and emotional. So I told him that I'll give him some time to decide what he's going to do. But if I don't see clear effort being made to start, prioritize me and our son, that I'd move forward with the divorce, and the change has to continue. Every time we've fought about this in the past, he's promised he'll change, and sometimes he has, but then his mom pulls him back into her orbit. If we are to stay married, these are some of the things I'm insisting on in no particular order. We each own the relationship with our own parents. That means I'm not planning anything for his parents anymore. No cards, no presents, no brunches or parties, no pictures, nothing. If his parents reach out to me, I'm going to redirect them to him. I'm not entertaining or visiting with his parents when he's not around. I'm not taking our son over to theirs by myself, and if they drop by, I'm not inviting them in, unless my husband is there. I'm not changing my plans at the last minute just because they decided to drop by without coordinating with us in advance, or because they want us to do something with them. Neither of us makes plans with our parents or accepts invitations until we discuss with our partner. And if we don't both agree, then we don't do it, and we don't throw each other under the bus. We just say something like, we checked our schedule and we're not available. Holidays like Christmas, Halloween, Easter, etc. are at our house. We can discuss inviting our parents, but we're not going to someone else's house to celebrate something involving our son when we can do it at home. This includes his first bidet, which MIL is trying to take over, and plan other holidays we're alternate between our parents, and we will focus on being present. That means no more texting, talking to his mom, non-stop when we're with my parents. No more oversharing with MIL. She doesn't need to know about our finances or health, medical issues, or vacation plans or anything, unless we both agree it's something we want to share. His visits to his parents can't be at the expense of spending quality time with me and our son. I don't mind him visiting his parents, but he's over there a couple times a week. We are his immediate family now. We should get priority. We're not doing things just because she said we should, and we're not changing our plans just because she doesn't like them. She really doesn't understand that wrong and different are not the same thing. In her mind, if we're not doing what she wants, how she wants, then we are in the wrong. He needs to go to therapy with someone specializing in enmeshment, and we need to start going to couples therapy. I didn't even realize I have so much pent-up resentment, that I can't look at my husband the same anymore. I'm just angry at him all the time, and I hate being this way. When it comes to our son, our word husband and me is law. If she disregards or minimizes our decisions for our son, then she loses access until she learns to behave. When me or my husband say no to either set of parents, the other person will support them and back them up. That means my husband has to stop trying to get me to agree with his mom all the time. I can tell he's freaked out and really stressed about the idea of putting hard boundaries in place or distancing from his parents. And I do feel for him. He said he feels like he's caught between a rock and a hard place, and that me and his mom are both putting a ton of pressure on him and both have conflicting expectations. And that's fine. He just needs to understand that I'm not tolerating this anymore. I know this will cause an absolute shitstorm with his parents, but I feel like if we don't do it now, it'll just be harder down the road. What does everyone think? Am I being unreasonable? Are there other boundaries we should put in place? Update 2. Aita. For not planning anything for fathers, Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day. Couple things I want to mention first. A lot of commenters have been saying that I knew what I was getting into when I married DH. So this whole thing is as much my fault as anyone else's. And if I didn't want a mama's boy, I shouldn't have married one. Yep, you are 100% correct. I ignored all the red flags, constantly told myself it would get better once we were engaged, then once we were married, then once we got pregnant, then once we had kids, and I think part of the issue is she's gotten worse over the years. It feels like one of those frog in a pot of boiling water situations. I don't deny I put myself into this situation, but the fact is, we're here now, so we need to get it figured out. A lot of other commenters said my list of rules was crazy, and I'm just as bad as his mom. Maybe I am more on that later, but I don't think there is anything about my boundaries that is unreasonable, and there is nothing there that I expect from him and his parents that I don't also expect from myself and my parents. I've said repeatedly, they all boil down to the same basic thing, showing each other respect and consideration. I'm not saying he can't see his parent or that they can't come visit or anything like that. I'm saying that his parents don't get to have priority over us and our little family, and neither do my parents. First, the good. My husband ended up surprising me with a trip out of town. He took me and LO down to San Antonio for a long weekend. We had been pre-kid and really enjoyed staying on the Riverwalk and doing all the touristy stuff, even though we only live a few hours away. DH ended up really stressed and kept apologizing because obviously this trip was much different. It felt more like a military expedition with all the gear we took for LO, and it wasn't nearly as romantic, since we had a pack-and-play next to the bed. But I kept reminding him that what was important to me at least was that he took the initiative to plan something on his own, and try to make up for Mother's Day. Even though it wasn't exactly what Hubs was hoping for, I had a really good time and enjoyed spending time with my two guys, and I expressed that to him, and to his credit, DH didn't answer when his mom called or spend all day texting her. I know he paid for it when we got back because I heard them on the phone and it sounded like she was reading him the riot act for not telling them we were going, not inviting them along and not answering when she called. I'm going to do something for him as a belated Father's Day, and we're going to try to build different, better memories of our first MDFD, even if it's after the fact more good stuff. DH and I both have individual therapists we've been seeing weekly for the past several weeks, as well as a couples therapist we have been seeing weekly together. And I'm going back to work full-time next week, so LO has been going to daycare, part-time to help him acclimate. The first day was pretty traumatic, more for me than for LO. But he's been adjusting well and seems happy when I pick him up after lunch. This is a huge point of contention with MILBC. She wants to babysit, but I've said absolutely not because she won't respect any of our rules or boundaries. I've also been following through on my list of boundaries on my last post. I'm not NC, but I guess the term is I've dropped the rope. Now the bad for LO's first birthday. I was planning something small and casual at our house, just our parents and a few close friends, like 10-15 people, max, counting me and DH. I was going to make a smash cake for LO and more grown-up type food for us and guests. I was planning some low-key decorations because, let's be honest, this kind of party is for the adults. Kiddo isn't going to remember any of it, so I didn't want to go overboard. Mael hated everything about it and wanted to do it at her house, invite all her friends and relatives, serve more kid-centric food, get a store-bought cake with all that super sweet icing, and go nuts with decorations. I told her, no, absolutely not, our kid, our house, our plans. She went crying to DH, and he tried to talk me into letting her have her way. This has been a constant theme. MIL oversteps. I complain. DH puts up boundaries, and then just as quickly DH forgets about the boundaries. We were able to talk about this in one of our early couples sessions, and it was pretty enlightening. I'm sure all the people saying DH just ended up marrying, some just like his mom, will be gratified to know our counselors said OP can have a forceful personality. So yay, I'm bossy, pushy, opinionated, etc. How it came up is we were talking about the party, and I was saying what I wanted to do and why I didn't want to let my MIL take over, etc., and DH was trying to explain why we should accommodate MIL. The therapist interrupted us and asked DH what he wanted to do. DH started talking about my plan versus his mom's plan, and the therapist stopped him and asked again what he wants. Based on his reaction, I don't think anyone has ever seriously asked him that. He had a complete deer in headlights look, and I really thought he was going to bolt or start crying or both. How we ended it is, if he truly doesn't have an opinion or doesn't care, then he should probably defer to his wife approach. He shouldn't delegate his right to decide to his mom. If he really wants to do it her way, then he needs to express that and say he wants to do it her way, because he really wants to do it her way, as opposed to doing it her way just to avoid upsetting her. Or if he wants something completely different, he needs to express that. But his mom's opinion is not and cannot take precedence. Nothing wrong with her expressing her opinion and him agreeing, but that needs to be an active process, as opposed to him just doing something because she said so. That was followed up by a conversations about how I have strong thoughts and opinions, and I need to give him room to have his own. So rather than saying, I want to do X, and then expecting him to agree or disagree, I need to say something like, for LO's birthday, I have some ideas, but I'd like to hear what you think first so we can decide together. We did end up doing the party the way I wanted because DH took the therapist's advice and deferred to me since he didn't have an opinion. MIL was super pissy about the whole thing and ended up bringing a sheet cake despite me telling her multiple times not to. We didn't serve it during the party because boundaries, which pissed her off DH, and I have been munching on it as a late-night snack after putting low to bed, and because of how insanely sweet the icing is, I'm glad I stuck to my guns. I feel better because I've put distance between myself and Mael, and I'm not worrying about pissing her off, so I'm not walking on eggshells anymore, but I don't know if I'm any more confident about whether our marriage will survive. I'm realizing that DH has deferred to other people, MIL and me, for so long, he has a hard time having his own thoughts and opinions. I do still love him very much, and I'm not as mad as I was when I first posted. Now I'm more sad for him, and I'm starting to understand him better. But I don't know if he can change. I know she is complaining to him because I haven't been kowtowing to her, and I haven't been visiting on my own or changing plans when they drop by unexpectedly. But I'm not pushing him to establish his own boundaries, yet I think he needs to do more work so he can decide what he wants out of all this. All that to say, we're still working through it, and I don't know what's going to happen. Top comments. Commenter 1. It sounds like he has some wonderful growth opportunities ahead, with you supporting his forays into the world of opinions, and with Mael held a safe distance away. I have hope that he can find out what he wants. Commenter 2. Progress, not perfection. Glad to see you guys headed in a positive direction. Hope it continues getting better. Commenter 3. DH started talking about my plan versus his mom's plan, and the therapist stopped him and asked again, what he wants. He doesn't have an opinion because his mom has steamrolled him on everyone all his life. That's why he defaults to siding with his mom. She's his decision-making faculty. Glad your therapist shone a light on this. He still needs a lot of therapy to cut that cord. But it looks like you're on the right track with this therapist. Good luck. Stories number 19. My teenage stepdaughter can't read, so this is going to be a long one so that I can give as much context as possible. So we're in CT, and as the title says, my 14-year-old stepdaughter's freshman can't read. By that, I mean she barely reads above a first-grade level, and struggles mainly with sounding out words well enough to put the sounds together and get the resulting word. She usually gives up and breaks down once she feels like the word is out of her reach. For example, out to eat the other day, she was trying to read the categories and could not get past the pa sound in pasta. She got frustrated and started guessing words like places and plates. For a little background, I have been in her life since she was 4. My husband has shared joint custody with his ex, and while she is the custodial parent, they have equal parenting rights on everything, and we have her pretty equal to the time she's with her mom. When she was in first grade, there was discussion by her teachers to keep her back a year, and her mother fought it, so she continued on to second grade. When she was about 8, we started her with a tutor when it was clear she was going to continue to fall behind and needed additional outside help. After about a year with that tutor, there had been no progression and we really couldn't afford it. My husband and I have been the only parents to continuously go to her schools over the years, following up and working with her at home every day. She was with us. Eventually, once she went to middle school, she had an IEP and more resources. Her school's speech pathologist worked with her as much as she could, and we ended up finding a former teacher trained in Orton Gillingham to start tutoring her again. About a year ago, she said something that really worried us. During one of the many conversations we've had with her about why she can't give up and why her learning to read is necessary for her to be able to progress in life. She often gives up and won't push herself, and in response to me reminding her that she wouldn't be able to get her license or a job without being able to read, she simply said, "Well, when I'm an adult, I'll just know how to read," which seemed like quite a fantastical way of thinking for someone her age, 13 then. Throughout all of this, we have tried reading with her ourselves. However, it often ends very quickly with her having a full-on meltdown because she gets embarrassed and frustrated that she can't do it. We defer to tutors because it has been the healthiest way for her and us, as well as a reading app that was recommended to us that she's been using for over a year now. It reads along with her and listens and corrects her if she gets a word wrong, eliminating any embarrassment she gets from reading with a person. Fast forward to now, she still sees the tutor twice a week for an hour each time, and uses the reading app, Read with Ello, to read at least 2 hours a week. Our biggest roadblock is her mother, who has never once helped SD with schoolwork or contributed to any help we've given her. She has washed her hands of it, and when we've asked for her support in simply making sure she practices reading at her house and holds her accountable for her schoolwork, she just says, she has a learning disability. The school has done all they can do. She's more concerned with being SD's friend and prefers us to be the bad guys. SD has never been diagnosed with any specific learning disability. She is a freshman in HS now, and we still have to use every bit of energy and time we have with her to make her practice her reading. She has an iPhone on our phone plan, and when she doesn't complete the reading she is supposed to do for the week, she loses access to anything outside of calls, texts on her phone. She also has chores that she does weekly. It's just dishes twice a week, take out the trash bin to the curb once a week, and vacuum once a week, and gets $20 a week for she loses that weekly allowance if she goes 2 weeks without doing the amount of reading she needs to do. Over the years, we have also tried many different forms of positive reinforcement, and we set monthly goals for her to achieve that would earn her extra clothes or fun activities of her choosing. We are currently trying to get a referral from the high school to have a doctor evaluate her for underlying physical issues. That may be the cause. Her previous school determined that there was no learning disability that they could specifically pinpoint. They didn't think there was anything physical that could be helped, but we want another opinion. 8. This point, we are looking for any advice on what might be the issue, advice on how to motivate her, advice on at-home practice we could try, advice on what questions to ask her school counselors, doctors, advice on how to deal with her horrible mother. We are completely at a loss and are so incredibly frightened for what her future will look like. Please help. Comments. Commenter 1. Retired reading teacher here. Research has shown that a child who is not reading at grade level by 3rd grade may never read on grade level. It is really late for her to be working on learning to read, but that doesn't mean to give up. Just know that this is a very concerning challenge. She should have been working on it every day since she was 6, even earlier. There are developmental things for each age, and if those are not met at those ages, then developmentally, they become a real struggle. Reading is one of them. She needs one-on-one help every day in a positive and rewarding way. Has she been evaluated for learning difficulties? Has she had her eyes checked? Do her eyes work well enough to focus on letters? This is not about 2020. There are 5 components of reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Phonics. Does she have phonics knowledge? There is a series called Explode the Code which focuses on phonics, written by the parent of a dyslexic child. It is detailed and repetitive in a way that is not necessarily boring. There are a few sets of phonics readers that work with the progression of phonics in reading. Phonemic awareness. Can she break words down into sounds? Cat, C-A-T. If you sound out a word, Can she put the sounds together and tell you what the word is? Fluency. Does she have any sight words memorized? You can make up note cards of the most common ones and have her work on a few at a time, adding a couple more when she knows the earlier ones, and building up her base of sight words. How are her verbal skills? Does she have a large vocabulary, and does she sometimes mispronounce words? Comprehension. Can she tell back a story, such as after seeing a move comment or two? I think this is beyond the scope of the advice subreddit. I would suggest cross-posting this in the Ask Teachers sub, and probably some of the parenting subreddits, as your questions are so specific. Reply: thank you. I had posted it in the stepmom subreddit and tried to post it in the learning disabilities subreddit, but was not able to. I wasn't aware there was an Ask Teacher subreddit. I will definitely do that. Thank you, commenter 3. That's a very difficult situation you describe. I don't have any expert advice for you, but I think getting a professional, non-school-based evaluation is important here. It seems like the school just wants to wash their hands of it again. I'm not a professional, but it seems pretty obvious to me that no one could put in that amount of effort, still struggle mightily with reading, and not have a learning disability. She's also approaching the age, and maybe there already, where you can have real conversations about what kind of future awaits her if she doesn't learn to read. It's not necessarily a bad one, but many paths are closed to non-readers, and she might not find appealing the ones that are open. Reply: yes. My husband and I both agree that she should not still be struggling this bad if there wasn't some type of learning disability. We are definitely already having those conversations, but like I said, her mother is our biggest roadblock. She has my stepdaughter convinced that since she must have a learning disability, it's no big deal that she can't read. She is listening to her mother, which a child should be able to, but her mother is neglecting to tell her that regardless of any learning disability, she can still learn. It is just more of a challenge. It is making it that much harder for us to get through to her. Commenter 4. I'm wondering how she could be in high school without being able to read a word as simple as pasta. Every single class requires reading comprehension. So how has she made it this far without being able to read? Sounds like the schools and teachers have failed her. Stories number 20. I just watched a coworker fired on the spot of us. We're meeting in our conference room this morning, including one of the VPs, and the CFO. 7 of us were in attendance already. Relaxed atmosphere, talking about what we all did over the weekend and whose kids started school already. Last guy comes in, sees one of the CPAs has a Dunkin' Coolata ice cream-looking drink with the flavored drizzle and whipped cream and says, "Man, one of those will kill your whole month's worth of all those salads you've been eating. Just wasted all that time and money." Ha ha ha. For context, she is a bigger woman. Very soft-spoken, respectful, professional, very much only speaks when she has something worth hearing. So this was absolutely not the correct person to make that comment to. This woman looked down into her lap and fought tears. And yes, she has been eating salads for a few months. Just a wild comment from a person that never casually socializes with the other CFO, stands up quickly and says, "This company has always had a zero-tolerance policy regarding bullying, body shaming, and contributing to toxic workplaces. Your termination is effective immediately." Guy turns white as a ghost, looking terrified, stands motionless for 5 long seconds, and then quietly walks out. CFO follows him out. The firing heard round. The office has now been the discussion for the last hour or so. One of the ladies told me after. The CFO's middle school-age daughter has dealt with constant bullying for the last couple years. For context, we're not kids. Everyone in that room was over the age of 40. Not that it would have been any better had it come from some 22-year-old fool, but at our age, maturity usually kicks in by now. Comments. Commenter 1. The bullying happened in public. The firing needed to happen in public. And to me, the 2 bigger issues are 1. Making sure the bullied worker knows the company has her back, and 2. Knowing that this jerk would say this to someone who's not a friend, and in front of others means you cannot trust what he says in front of clients. Commenter 2. That's okay, I think. You can't just get away with a comment making the target fighting. Her tears just like that. If you let that happen, it can get toxic for everyone real quick. And who knows what already happened before. Commenter 3. This is amazing support from your CFOite. Shouldn't matter if you're an adult or a child. Zero tolerance should actually mean zero tolerance. Kudos to your boss. Stories. Number 21. Boyfriend. Won't stop telling me I have BOI. Have been with my boyfriend for over a year, and everything has been great, except for one thing. Every single day, at least once, he will tell me that I stink and smell of beau. When we met, I showered every day, applied regular deodorant in the morning, brushed my teeth 3 times a day. Now I am so paranoid about smelling bad that I shower at least twice a day. I apply new industrial strength deodorant every few hours. I have a reminder on my phone, perfume, and I brush my teeth anytime I eat or drink something that isn't water. I feel like I'm going crazy. I didn't think I smelled bad in the beginning. And I don't think I smell bad now, but I obviously smell bad to him, right? I'm that weirdo that keeps sneakily smelling their own armpits. I have been to the doctor, and he has said there is nothing medically wrong. It has honestly gotten to the point where I literally shove my armpit in friends' and family's faces, asking if I smell bad. They all say I don't smell like beau at all. One friend even said I smelled too clean, like a Lush store. I am getting so paranoid. He won't cuddle or anything when he says I smell. I really don't know what more I can do. Comments. Commenter. Either it's just one of those times where you smell bad to him, and to him only, or he's doing this on purpose to avoid intimacy or control you or something. An ex-husband of mine did this to me. Wouldn't be intimate, but blamed. May number of reasons, including I had bad breath. I went to the dentist who told me there was nothing wrong with my breath. It's not you. It's him. Commenter 2. He's nagging you so that you're desperate to earn his approval. Break up with the piece of shit. Commenter 3. Break up with him. Either his sense of smell is off, or he's doing this on purpose to hurt your self-esteem. Update. So unexpected edit. I waited for him to make a comment this morning so I could talk to him. It was less than an hour after waking up that he said, "God, you stink." I had already showered and put on deodorant. I snapped and asked what exactly was he smelling because, at this point, I'm one of the cleanest people on the planet. And if I still smell bad to him, then we should just break up. He got all panicked and upset. I eventually got out of him that this is what his father always said to his mother. Apparently his father told him that was a surefire technique to have a woman never leave you because she will feel too low to cheat, will love only you, and will always be clean. Needless to say, his father is wrong. He's packing his things and moving out of my house today. Comments. Commenter 1. Holy shit. That update, his father basically groomed him to be an emotional abuser. So glad you ended that. Hopefully he learns from this. Commenter 2. I couldn't believe the edit. W taff. Poor girl, I'm so glad she left him. Commenter 3. But holy crap, what a great edit. She not only called him out perfectly, but she saw past his excuse and moved the fuck on. Imagine him thinking that his attempts to manipulate her to settle for him would end well. OP upgraded for sure by dumping him. Commenter 4. Before I actually read the last paragraph, I thought OP was going to say they're going to work on his issues together because of the few recent update threads. That was a proper surprise twist ending. Good job, OP. I wish many other women had your confidence. Commenter 5. Imagine telling a girl she smells to make her want you more. Fuck, people are stupid. Commenter 6. Makes me feel bad for OP's ex's mother. Commenter 7. I am really paranoid about stinking. Because when I was a teen, my parents often said I smell bad. And it didn't help that used heaps and heaps of deodorant and still got comments. If somebody used this to emotionally manipulate me, I would go ballistic. I'm so glad OP got out of that. What a pose, vice versa. I had a girlfriend once who really liked my body odor. When we woke up in the mornings together, she'd just take a breath of me and tell me how wonderful it was. I can't even tell you how healing that was. Stories number 22. Late night walks keep scaring women, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm a 29-year-old guy living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. I work from home most days, and one of my routines is to take late night walks. Usually around 9:30 or 10 p.m. after dinner, I'll throw on my hoodie, put in some earbuds, and just wander the block. It's not like I live in a sketchy area, it's a middle-class cul-de-sac kind of place. A few street lamps, mostly families with kids, dogs barking through fences. I don't drink. I don't really hang out at bars, so walking has become my way of decompressing. But here's the problem. I keep unintentionally scaring women. The most recent example happened last night. I was doing my usual loop, maybe a mile total. Halfway through I ended up walking behind a woman. She looked like she was probably in her early 30s, in leggings and a sweatshirt, carrying a tote bag. At first I didn't think anything of it. She turned onto the same block as me and I just happened to fall into step maybe 30 feet behind her. Within a few minutes, I noticed her looking back over her shoulder. Then she adjusted her pace, sped up a little, and started fiddling with her phone. I saw her run her hand through her hair, kind of that anxious gesture people do when they're uneasy. That's when it hit me. To her, I probably looked like a threat. Some random guy following her at night. My brain panicked. I didn't want her to feel unsafe, so I blurted out, "Hey, I'm not a threat." "Yeah." Out loud. The second the words left my mouth, I realized how awful it sounded. Who even says that? That's basically something a threat would say. She immediately pulled her phone all the way out, put it to her ear, and started talking. Whether it was a real call or just a fake one to make me back off, I'll never know. Feeling like a complete idiot, I crossed the street and slowed way down so she could get distance, and the rest of my walk, I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. This wasn't the first time either. A couple of weeks ago, I passed by two college-aged women near the park entrance, and they froze mid-conversation until I walked past another time. An older woman on the sidewalk clutched her purse tighter as I approached. And here's the thing. I get it. I've read enough stories online, heard enough news, and listened to enough podcasts to know why women feel on edge walking alone at night. I don't take it personally, but I also don't want to be that guy who accidentally ruins someone else's sense of safety, just because I want some exercise. I've been thinking hard about body language and what I can do differently. Some things I've tried, crossing the street early. If I see a woman ahead of me, I'll sometimes just switch sides right away, but sometimes the other side is dark or doesn't have sidewalks, so it feels less natural. Dragging my pace, I'll slow down dramatically, but then it feels like I'm stalking at a distance, which might look worse. Speeding up to pass, I've done this a couple of times, but then I feel like I'm suddenly sprinting past someone, which is its own brand of unsettling, coughing or shuffling loudly, just so they know I'm there and not sneaking. This works a little, but it also feels forced. I keep overthinking it. Like, what's the right balance between giving space and not making a big show out of it? My buddy Ethan laughed when I told him and said, "Dude, just walk earlier in the day." But walking at night is my thing. It's quiet. It's when I actually relax. My neighbor Kelly, she's mid-40s, a mom of 3, told me bluntly, "If you're behind a woman, just cross the street. Always don't announce yourself. Don't linger. Just get space." She also said, maybe I should ditch the hoodie for something less shadowy, like a light-colored jacket or even reflective gear. And honestly, she's probably right. But here's where I still feel conflicted. Part of me resents that just existing as a guy at night makes me look dangerous. I know it's not personal, but it feels unfair. Sometimes I'm not a creep, I don't even catcall. I just like my stupid walks at the same time. I don't want to be defensive. If women are constantly on alert, that's not their fault. It's because of the actual bad guys out there. If I can take a little extra step to not contribute to their stress, isn't that the decent thing to do? So I'm trying to figure this out. What body language actually works here? Should I always cross the street, even if it's inconvenient? Should I keep my distance but hum a tune or jingle my keys so I sound normal? Should I stop walking at night altogether, because yelling, "I'm not a threat," sure as hell isn't the answer? Stories number 23. My brother vanished, inherited most of our father's pension, and now I've just learned he died after a decade of silence. 10 years ago, my world flipped upside down. My dad, Robert, passed away. In 2015, after a sudden stroke, he was 68, single, and still working for the county government in California at the time. He had one main retirement account, a 457B. In his paperwork, he had listed 2 beneficiaries, me 25% and my older brother, Daniel, 75%. To anyone on the outside, it probably looked like a pretty straightforward split. But nothing in my family has ever been simple. Daniel and I hadn't been close for years. We grew up in the same house. Sure, but he was the type to disappear whenever responsibility showed up. Drugs, failed jobs, burned bridges. You name it. He'd drop in for holidays with wild stories and then vanish again, sometimes for years. By the time Dad died, I hadn't seen or heard from him in at least 4. When Dad's employer contacted me about the retirement account, I told them I had no idea where Daniel was. They tried, apparently, for years to locate him, but he was like smoke, always slipping through the cracks. Meanwhile, my 25% sat in limbo for 5 years. 5 years I'd call the benefits office every few months. Sometimes I'd get a clerk named Stephanie who was polite but useless, reading me the same script about ongoing efforts to locate the missing beneficiary. Other times I'd get a grumpy guy named Jeff, who acted like I was bothering him by asking about money that legally belonged to me. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime of paperwork, stonewalling, and bureaucratic nonsense, they released my portion. By then, I was so exhausted that I didn't even have the energy to celebrate. It felt like winning a race where someone kept moving the finish line, but Daniel's 75% remained untouched for a decade. That money has just been sitting there, locked away, waiting for a ghost to collect it. Every so often I'd think about it, usually when bills were tight or life threw me a curveball. But I always came back to the same conclusion. If Daniel wanted it, he'd have to crawl out of whatever hole he was hiding in and claim it. Then, last month, out of nowhere, I got a phone call that stopped me cold. It was from an old family friend named Carol, a woman who used to go to church with my dad. She tracked me down after hearing from a nursing home that Daniel had died. I remember the exact moment I was sitting at my kitchen table paying bills, when my phone buzzed. "Hello? Is this Michael?" "Yeah. Who's this?" "This is Carol Miller. You don't know me well, but I was a friend of your father's. I thought you should know. Your brother Daniel passed away last month." For a second, I didn't even react. The words bounced around in my head like they were in a foreign language. Daniel dead. After all those years of him being unfindable, unreachable, untouchable. Now he was gone. The nursing home where he'd been staying had reached out to Carol because apparently she was listed as his emergency contact from some form he filled out years ago. His wife? Yes, wife. Had abandoned him. There, no kids, no one else. Just a forgotten man in a room, fading away. It hit me like a strange mix of grief and numbness. On one hand, he was still my brother. On the other, I hadn't had a real relationship with him since I was a teenager. I cried a little, but mostly out of frustration at how broken everything between us had always been. I got a copy of his death certificate. Sure enough, it listed him as married. No children. His wife's name was Rebecca, someone I'd never met, never even heard of. From what Carol told me, Rebecca had basically walked away when things got hard. The nursing home staff said she hadn't visited in months before he passed. Now here's where things get complicated. What happens to Daniel's 75% of Dad's retirement account? Do I get it as the surviving sibling and co-beneficiary? Does it go to his wife, even though she abandoned him? Does the county just absorb it because they dragged their feet for so long? When I asked the HR office for clarity, they refused to even send me the plan summary or rules, something I've been requesting for 10 years. 10 years. They just keep telling me to seek legal advice. I've spent nights down rabbit holes, Googling 45B beneficiary rules California, until my eyes blur. From what I gather, it might depend on whether Daniel ever claimed his portion. Since he didn't, and since he died, it could default to his estate, which would mean his wife might inherit it as next of kin. But if the plan had specific wording about what happens if a beneficiary predeceases payout, maybe it reverts to the other named beneficiary me. I've called 3 different attorneys already. One quoted me $450 just for a consultation. Another said flatly, "It'll probably go to his wife, sorry." The third said he'd need to review the actual plan documents, which of course the county still refuses to give me. Meanwhile, Rebecca the widow has apparently reappeared. Carol told me she asked about any benefits Daniel might have left behind. Of course she did. It makes my blood boil. She left him in a nursing home, alone, and now she's sniffing around for money that came from my dad's hard work, Part of me feels guilty even thinking about money right after learning my brother died. But let's be honest, this isn't just pocket change. This is a huge chunk of my dad's life savings that was meant for his children. I've tried talking it over with people close to me. My friend Alex said, "Dude, fight for it. That's your family's money, not some woman who bailed on your brother when he needed her most." But my coworker Jenna was harsher. "She was still his wife legally, right? Then it's hers. Doesn't matter what you think of her. I don't know what to think anymore." What I do know is this. I'm tired. Tired of chasing down a system that seems designed to wear you out. Tired of family ties that always unravel into silence and anger. Tired of feeling like I'm the only one who actually cared enough to keep track of anything. All I wanted was for Dad's wishes to be honored. He wanted both his sons to benefit from his retirement. Instead, one son disappeared. The other was stonewalled. And now it looks like a stranger might walk away with the majority of it. I keep asking myself, do I let this go, or do I dig in and fight? Because after 10 years, I don't know if I have the strength for another round. Stories number 24. Apparently I am a deviant in my own living room was bringing in groceries today when my neighbor from 2 houses down approached me, completely, without preamble, and said, "I could have you arrested. I've never spoken to this woman. I don't know her. I only know where she lives because I've seen her in her yard." So, of course, I say, "I don't understand. I've never done anything to you." "You showed my son your tits. I could have you on the sex offender registry now." I'm like, WTF? I have never stepped 1 foot outside my house without proper breast coverage. Yeah, I wear low-cut tops and a couple shirts that lace up the front and show the inch of skin between my breasts, but I don't walk around with my boobs on display. I tell this lady I have never shown my breasts to anyone but my doctor, and that her son must be mistaken. Red lying because that's not something I'd do. "Well, he was walking through your yard last night and says you lifted up your shirt and showed him your tits, guys." I wasn't outside at all last night. I was inside, in my armchair, playing Expedition 33. So of course I tell this lady that, and she fires right back with, "You did it through the window." Nah, now all the windows in the sides of my house facing the road and my left and right neighbors have opaque curtains or blinds. The back of the living room has windows with no curtains, so my cats can look out, but my backyard has a privacy fence on all sides. So this kid, to have seen me at all last night, had to have been in my private backyard. Looking in my open windows, I have eczema. It itches like hell sometimes. And sometimes I lift up my shirt and scratch my chest and back. This kid probably saw me scratching my boobs, which I feel comfortable doing in my living room because, again, privacy fences on all sides of my backyard, where this kid should not have been. I'm trying to explain to this crazy lady the setup of my windows and how I had no idea anyone was in my private backyard. And she's insisting I knew her son was there and gave him a private show and I should be on a registry. She finished with, "Well, I'm going to talk to the police and see what they'll do about this." Do about what? Her kid peeking in my windows? Her kid walking around my backyard without permission? Like, come on, lady, can't a girl scratch her boobs in the privacy of her own home? If my kid went in another neighbor's yard and saw something they shouldn't have seen, I'd be having a talk with them about giving people privacy in their own homes and asking before exploring a yard. But nope, apparently I'm the devil for scratching. A skin condition. Our local police force are mostly decent and I doubt this is going anywhere. But it pissed me off. I guess now I have to watch out for this kid in my backyard every time I want to watch a movie with nudity or walk through the house in my underwear to get something out of the dryer to wear. Edit. The son is approximately 8 and possibly neurodivergent from the number of autism bumper stickers on her car. I think he's just a victim of a mom who won't teach him appropriate behaviors. Some of the comments, I have security cameras on all the doors and the back patio with the big window, but I guess I need one pointed straight back. I've always only been worried about break-ins because the guy on the corner sells meth. It's definitely concerning. I live 2 streets from the creek, and it's normal to have venomous snakes passing through my yard. In the daytime, it's not so much a problem because you see them before you get too close, but in the dark, he could easily step on one. Plus, we get fire ants and ground hornets in this area. You really don't want to be walking through someone's dark yard. I hit the floodlights if I have to go out at night, like, yes, I hate that he's looking in my windows, but I really don't want him ending up in the ER because of whatever one of Mother Nature's little surprises was hanging out in my yard update. So, I had a lovely visit from a local deputy this afternoon. Mrs. Neighbor Lady made true on her word, and called the police to report me for exposing myself to a minor officer talk to both of us, and her husband. And I'm in no trouble. And I have a better understanding of what's going on. The kid is ADHD and his older brother was the one he connected with best. Well, older brother got into a top college and went away for school. And kiddo is having a lot of trouble adjusting. Sneaking out and running away from home are two of his new problem behaviors, as is talking back and taunting his parents. The story the officer got from the husband, who seems to be a reasonable dude, is that kiddo snuck out the bathroom window and apparently wandered the neighborhood, including my yard, for about 2 hours until the husband tracked him down and brought him home. Mom and kiddo got in an argument, and at some point kiddo threw mention of my boobies in his mom's face as a "you can't control me" move. And it escalated from there. Now you would think, great news. Issue solved, right? Just a kid struggling with a big life change that he wasn't ready for. Mom still wants me on the registry because she thinks I intentionally flashed her son. Apparently she doesn't believe that it was just coincidence that kiddo was in my yard when I had my shirt up. I'm in the southern USA. It's hot as the devil's taint outside and my bra makes me sweat right where a bad patch of skin is. I've been scratching my boobs like crazy lately. Come winter, it'll be my legs. I probably had my shirt up several times that night, so I'm avoiding the wife and having sympathy for the husband because I get that this is a big family adjustment, and clearly his wife isn't taking it well. And I do feel bad for everyone involved because kiddo is clearly hurting. Mom and dad are having a hard time. And the son at college probably feels bad for leaving his little bro. But come on, lady, don't take it out on your neighbor who just scratched her itchy boobs at the wrong time. Some of the comments, like, I don't want to put a struggling kid in legal trouble for being a dumb kid. He shouldn't have been looking in my house, but he needs therapy and family support right now. Not an angry neighbor. I don't know about charges against the kid. I made it very clear I just wanted on record what happened, so I wouldn't get in trouble. I don't really want to put a disabled kid through the legal system. They've lived there for about 2 years now, and this is the first problem I've had with them. I've seen the kid and his brother out riding bikes before, and they seemed pretty chill, but he may have always had boundary issues that are being exacerbated by this new development. He was in my backyard, and the windows on the back wall of the living room don't have curtains because the backyard is completely fenced in. From the dad saying he snuck out the bathroom window. I think there's probably something on his bedroom window at least. Don't know about the doors though. They don't have a Ring camera or anything. We've got 3 preppers in my neighborhood, and 1 trigger-happy dude who even wears his gun to mow the yard. Most people here are good people, but Johnny on the corner deals meth, and I'd hate for the kid to get mistaken for one of his customers. Somebody comments that he'll be back for sure to peep some more. I am kind of scared of this. I definitely do not want hormonal tweens prowling my backyard lol. I have cameras on the doors and sensors on windows for break-ins, but I guess it's time for a backyard cam. The first words out of the officer's mouth were, "Just to let you know, you're not in any trouble." He was remarkably chill about the whole thing, and the husband seemed apologetic. I think the husband probably figured the kid was watching me change or something and was embarrassed that his kid was spying on women. I actually don't even own curtains for those back windows. Lol, I've had cats the entire time I've lived here, and the backyard is full of squirrels and birds that they love to watch. I have cat trees by all the windows in the living room, except the one by my armchair.